What's up, guys? I'm flying solo today. Liz had some stuff to take care of, some family shit, and all that goodness. So it's just going to be me. As you can see, he's already up in the comments right now. My dude, Zach. Right, we're going to pull Zach in. For those of you who don't know, Zak Nava, if you were in Arlington, you're fucking up already. If you don't follow Zak Nava, you're fucking up already. You guys need to go subscribe to his YouTube channel. You guys need to go hit him up on Facebook. He's super active on Facebook. You guys need to follow his Instagram. The dude is cool as shit. I think I met him about a year or maybe a year and a half ago at an Arlington show, because Arlington shows are, every 6 months. So it might have been about a year and a half, and he was with hanging out with Full Throttle. Awesome fucking dude. Approached me, super approachable. What's up, Gatos Python? So I'm telling you, man, this guy's the real deal. So I might as well introduce my dude. Oh, wait, that's not the right thing. My bad, everybody. I just got his autograph, just saying. Let me introduce my dude, Zak Nava.
What's going on, brother? How's everybody doing? It's fucking good to be here, man. I really do appreciate the invite, and I've been looking forward to this.
Dude. Fuck yeah, dude. So we're no holds barred over here. You can say whatever you want. You can talk about. I talk about shaking a baby that I never wanted, like every episode.
All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll fit right in here. That's good to know. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. And so I watched before this. I was watching your stream with Miri.
Man, that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Which was really cool, guys. Miri, MSB, guys gotta go check her out. Go check out the interview she just did with Zach on his channel. That was like really informative. I actually took a lot from that because I'm in Monarch. Monarch is like my favorite project I'm working right now. And I only have a single visual Monarch male, but I have a fuck ton of breeder girls.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. That's a tremendous piece of the puzzle, of that any project, realistically, and that's a big move to have a visual male. I mean, it is. It's not a cheap animal to get a hold of, and I'm telling you, there's so much upside in that project. In my opinion, I think it's still undervalued. And again, anybody that wants to argue it with Ultramel, I think both are the same way. I think they're both undervalued projects that have not had enough work done with them. I think that everybody that is debating on getting into it, you're going to buy it too late, just as with anything that goes up in value. So just my 2 cents.
100% I agree. And when it comes to Monarch and Ultramel, I do like them both. It's more of a personal preference. Do you like T negative or T positive kind of stuff? Really?
Yeah, I mean they're both similar enough to where I understand why people draw the parallels, but it is like the Monarch is definitely going to go a lot darker. You're probably going to get a lot more of like a ruby out of those purples. I think the Ultramel stuff's going to be more purple, like a bright purple. So it's hard to really say, but again, that's the whole point of both projects is they're both super exciting. They're both still in their infancy and have a lot of opportunity. And I was really excited to just share her story with people because I don't think that she's discussed it nearly enough, and that's not a knock to her whatsoever. Because anybody coming up in this industry, it's hard, especially being in the position that she is, where she kind of took over from somebody that started a project, and you never want to come across as arrogant. You always want to come across as very real and very teachable. Yeah, and so I think she's done a really good job so far with what she's doing, and obviously I'm looking forward to seeing what she does with it. I know that you are as well, so yeah, it should be good, man.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's hard for not to get on this whole kick, but
it's fine. We're gonna go where it naturally goes.
Yeah, fuck it. So I think there's still, to a degree, not from me or I'm sure you, but to a degree, there is a stigma towards female reptile breeders in the industry just because
1,000%.
Yeah, there's still a lot of older guys. Me personally, I look at what do you got, what are you bringing to the table, what are your projects, how are you furthering the industry, and what are you doing for the animals. I don't give a fuck about your gender.
Yeah,
My,
no, not even remotely, and so, yeah, like you said, obviously that's not something that's relevant to either of us, but it's relevant in general, and it's not just the hobby, it's most hobbies,
yeah,
again, like
yeah, dude.
Miri also is into motorcycles, and a lot of these things are very male dominated activities, and so I think that's another reason why, like, as a friend to her, I'm like, dude, like, you need to be like shouting yourself out from the mountaintops, like,
Yeah,
because she really is just one of the people that's just really doing everything she does. She does it to the best possible way, and I think that people that are beyond reproach in that way kind of have a responsibility to the things that they're into to share it with the world, right? To make it more
100%.
normalized, and so yeah, absolutely. I think we should all lean into that. And yeah, like Precious Python's another one. Brittany Gobble, like all of these people.
Oh,
I don't
dude,
mean to leave
there's
anyone out, but
so many.
there's so many
No,
names,
there's
and yeah,
oh Tracy Barker. If you want to talk about a
yeah,
legend,
right, yeah,
right?
and
Yeah,
she's like,
like
yeah, oh, and she's
she's
a great example too, because same thing. There's still people that will approach their table at a show and ignore Tracy. That's insane. It's insane.
that's
But it, but it,
nuts.
but that's but so and that's that statement in and of itself kind of carries all the weight that it should, right? Like, um,
Yes.
no female in the hobby or whatever should need a guy to validate their collection or validate the prices on
Oh
their animals or
no.
whatever. So I get it, and I have 7 sisters myself, and so
Boom!
yeah, yeah. Well, my parents are both divorced and remarried, and so I got step siblings and half siblings and this that, and
Okay,
the other. But
okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
to make the numbers make sense, we're not Mormon or anything, but
Yeah.
still, I have 7 women that I'm blood related to, or and they all mean a lot to me, and so yeah, for sure, man, it's something that I notice and have noticed for as long as I can remember. So yeah, I
Oh,
would like to
yeah,
see that level out.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree, and I think when people see the heat she's bringing, I think they'll, be like, okay, she's the real deal. She's not, here for what do you call it, like the 3 year grace period where people like,
Yeah, dude.
you
No,
know,
and that's
yeah.
it. That's why I want again. I don't want to harp on this too much because
No, go ahead, man.
we're referencing. In other way, the reason I say is because we're referencing content people haven't seen necessarily. I really would encourage any of you guys that are like even remotely interested in the topic we're covering. Please go back and listen to the live that I just did with Miri, because this is a girl who literally like has her bachelor's degree in aeronautic engineering, had the opportunity to go directly to work for a company like Lockheed Martin, and instead of doing that, she was like, no, I would rather pursue my hopes and dreams and my passion for these animals, and do it in a big way. And so I that's why I again made a point today to like try to push her a little outside of her comfort zone, and give her some exposure,
Yeah.
because
No, that was good.
I want to see that more often, man. Not just from women, but just in general, out of people. Just walk away from these established norms and just double down on what we love, and the stuff we're passionate about. That's absolutely what I'm all about. 7 days a
No,
week. So.
yeah, 100%, man. 100,000%. That was pretty impressive. That like kind of hit my heart because I'm getting out of the army on Friday.
Yeah,
Like
dude, I didn't
on
know it was that soon. I
fucking
knew it was coming, but I
Friday.
didn't know it was that close. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
and
proud of
this
you, man.
is thanks, man. And this is gonna be my job. I'm going all in.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and you're not alone in that either. Just in terms, because that's the thing. That's the thing. This is a topic I'm super passionate about. Is that there's a lot of us in this world, right, that are doing things as stepping stones, and
yeah,
there's this part of me, anybody that's listened to a lot of my content for long enough knows that I've worn many hats. I've worked in many different industries. I've done everything from mechanics on cars to selling mortgages to selling cell phones to like just this, that, and the other. I've been in a lot of industries, to being a bartender, just whatever. And I loved all of them for many different reasons, and I've excelled at all of those things. But the thing was, and the reason why, no matter how much I excelled at all of those, because I did. I mean, I had the highest score on the test, my national licensing exam for mortgages that my boss had ever seen. He had been in the industry for over 20 years.
damn.
And that's not to toot my own horn, but that's just to say that there are people that are going to hear this that are obsessed with the animals that we all love, that are doing things that they don't have passion for every day, and and they don't know why. And I think that was a large part of why I was unhappy for a large part of my life, was just not knowing what my passion was and ignoring it. Like it was there, it was in front of my face. I should have seen it, but I never embraced it. And so to see people like Miri, just as an example, that literally just like derailed her path, her normal path of like, oh yeah, well now I should just go work for Lockheed Martin and make 6 figures a year and like, do the normal thing. She's like, actually, I really like these snakes. I'm gonna buy a group of those and just like, yeah, do that instead.
Yeah,
that's crazy,
dude.
but it's exciting, and I think that would make all of us happy if we had that opportunity. So that's why I wanted to highlight it, and I think it's
No, 100%. You create those opportunities for yourself. She got her degree. She obviously, that shows, hey, I have some sort of work ethic. I have some sort of intelligence. She's smart, and she just went all in. And good for her, man.
Yeah.
She has
had
more
other
balls
options
on her. Yeah, she has more balls on her than most men.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and again, like I said, it's all about just passion and love for what we all do, man, and that's what excites me about her story, and I'm really excited to see where she goes from there. But not just her. Again, this applies to everyone. Again, this applies to you, man. So you are in the position right now where you're transitioning from military, which is obviously something you were super passionate about. I don't know anyone that is in the military that wasn't passionate.
Loved it.
I would have been you myself. I mean, I was very passionate about the military. I grew up in a military family. I was medically deemed ineligible because I have a full spinal fusion, like not a few vertebrae, but like 10 or 11 vertebrae that are fused.
No, you can't.
So I was done. Yeah, I was done for. I was wasted. By anyone's standards, there was no getting a
waiver for that.
A waiver for my level of a spinal fusion. But my point is that for you, even it went from a passion to just another step in your story, right? You're using it as a stepping stone from like, this is what I did, and this is what established some habits and some education and taught me a lot of things about how to operate myself. And you're transitioning to using 100%. That into this amazing hobby. That's
100%. Cool, I was just talking to last week. I was talking to JT because myself being a paratrooper, he was Captain Tomlinson to me.
Yeah.
And so JT was the first guy I saw with a maroon beret on get out of that sort of community, because the military community, like you said, you grew up in it, so it's tight knit. Like if you're in the military, typically you do 20, you retire, and then you go work for Lockheed Martin or something like that. Yes, right?
100. Yeah, there's a designated path and because a proven path, and you're like, okay, well that makes sense because it worked for this guy, so that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. But there is room to change that. Absolutely.
Right here, baby, right here.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Well, all right, let's get into the good shit. now that it's just, you and me.
Yeah, let's lean into it, man, for
all
sure.
Right, so, for everybody who don't know you, just introduce yourself, tell them who you are, where you're from, and what you're about.
Yeah, so I'm Zak Nava of Nava Reptiles. I'm located in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work with a large group of ball pythons, which I love. I absolutely love. All of my ball pythons are centered around the Ultramel project. For anybody that maybe didn't pick that up in the beginning, so that's kind of where my focus is in terms of that. My logo and everything was done by Blake Stewart of Stewart Designs, and I remember having the conversation with Blake early on, because I gave him the reins to everything. I reached out to him before I had a company name nailed down, before I had anything, because I said, listen, I want to give somebody that does this professionally, that's normally doing rebrands, the opportunity to guide someone to do things the right way from the start. And I love that he was excited about that approach. And so that's where things started for me. But where things started in terms of animals for me was I actually bought a world's first pair of dwarf reticulated pythons long before I actually had my own pairs of ball pythons. Now, I did have a ball python in high school. That was my first official snake that I actually owned. Okay. I think I was like 16, so that would have been like 17, 18 years ago, roughly. I bought it from a pet store, and I still kick myself to this day because when I got that snake, the internet was still kind of a new thing. It was like the early 2000s, and there were scams galore, and we were taught to be weary of that, early on. And so I second guessed all the forums as just bunk information. And I think every day, where would I be if I would have leaned into that hobby in 2004? You
You'd
know, like
be
I'd be like, not to say that I have the same vision as Kabilka, but that's like when Kabilka got started.
you
Like
would yeah you would be
if I'd
at
have
a
pursued
higher
it,
echelon. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so that's I bring that up to people not to say that like, oh, I missed out. I bring that up to people to say that like, if you're passionate about this stuff, today's the day to start, because tomorrow's too late. And you don't want to be like me, where in 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 13 years, you're like, man, I wish I would have gotten into ball pythons then, because I'd be way further ahead now. Like, just
Yeah.
lean into the stuff you love. Like that's what this is all about. But long form of answering your question, yeah, I got into retics first because I found Garrett Hartle from Reach Out Reptiles, and
So
that was the first money I spent on snakes.
I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
where Garrett's from. That's a good dude. I really like Garrett. Super genuine, super nice. Like, talk about passion. I mean, everyone's passionate to a degree, but
um,
you spit in the air, it lands on a ball python breeder. To find someone who's passionate about what Garrett's passionate about
yeah.
is a
And
rarity.
here's the thing that people underestimate about Garrett. Okay, um, and I did as well. Not intentionally, not even knowingly. I didn't knowingly underestimate Garrett in terms of his on camera presence and the way that he presents himself in his videos.
Yeah.
But I did because when I first started on YouTube, it was the same time that I reached out to ask about my logo. Like, I did everything all at once. You know, COVID is what really spurred me to start leaning into this hobby, and is what gave me the time to lean into doing this, you know. And so
Yeah.
I bet heavily on myself. I rolled the dice very heavily on what I want to do and what I love, outside of bartending, which I couldn't do obviously during that time. And I started doing this stuff. You know, that's when I started on YouTube. That's when I started meeting people like yourself and Alyssa and all of these people that now I'm like, man, like, what is my life? Like, these are my friends. Like, my
Yes,
friends are these
bro.
people that I used to look up to, and it's just amazing. But the point is that just, yeah, like, just putting myself out there and starting in with that stuff. I ultimately ended up securing an invitation from Garrett to come out and visit his facility in Pittsburgh, and that was tremendous, man. You know, I had obviously at that point I had been a customer of his for a couple of years. Again, for those that didn't hear early on, I did buy the world's only pair of 50% Solaire Tiger, 100% Het Rennet Ghosts. So there was an entire clutch that was produced from that pairing. Only 3 eggs actually survived. The rest went bad. 2 of those were, one was a visual female Tiger, 100% Het Rennet Ghost, 50% Solaire. The other was her brother, who was also a visual Tiger, 100% Het Rennet Ghost. Again, both 50% Solaire. The male, unfortunately, had to be put down. He had cancer. The vet called me and said his lungs were completely filled with tumors. You guys may have seen that video on my page, but that was the project that got me in from the very get go. And I was very passionate about it. Still am very passionate about it. Anybody that hears the name Rennick, I think, that has been in the hobby for a while,
Yeah.
understands the meaning behind it, and just what it should mean to all of us, really, to preserve that, and to get it in dwarves and super dwarves. Not that there's anything against it in these large snakes and mainlands, but my thought is just that in terms of preserving the species of reticulated pythons, I think we have to go smaller. I don't think we have a choice anymore. I think we have to continue to work towards the dwarf and super dwarf stuff, and I think we have to do it in such a way that is very logical and very observed, and attention is paid to bloodlines.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, and we'll get further into that in a
Yeah,
little bit. I am jealous that you went to Garrett's. By the way, I've never been. I'm gonna hit him
it's
up.
yeah, man, absolutely.
Oh
Yeah, we'll talk
shit!
about that later.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm going home pretty soon. I gotta hit him up.
Yeah, because I was
Thank
gonna
you for
say
reminding
so.
me.
Yeah, so because he's actually I know I can say this publicly because he said it publicly. He's moving into a new facility,
Okay,
and
cool.
yeah, so link up with me after this and we'll talk about it. I'm actually organizing for him. A bunch of us are going to be going up the day that he's moving,
Yeah.
and staying up there and helping him actually move from the old facility to the new facility and get things set up for him. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for video and things like that. So for us, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to just be
Oh,
involved.
hell yeah, dude! I'll just go to hang out with the animals.
Yeah,
Let's
literally,
be
literally.
real.
So that's why I say, like, without even doing any filming, like I'm already planning on being there just to work, just to help move some cages and do this, that, and the other. It's a big opportunity for sure, and it's exciting because again, just this even going to this facility as it is now, it was mind blowing, man. I mean, I got to hold the first baby cow super dwarf when it was basically fresh out of the egg, and literally like at the time you're talking about, it was a $35,000 animal.
That's so
And Garrett
crazy.
and Garrett had known me in person, in person for all of 5 minutes, and he's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Take it outside if you're gonna take pictures." He's like, "The lighting's way better outside." And so I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna walk around with this $35,000 animal. Um, no big
Yeah,
deal."
right.
Yeah, and again, that was very early on in my YouTube career. I still have a lot of footage from there, but a lot of it is just like doesn't make sense, and so
Yeah, it's not
but I
easy.
still keep saving it because I'm like, I'm gonna do something with this. Like I have footage of a retic
Yeah.
like biting Garrett on the foot and wrapping his leg, and him like talking to it like a baby, like, and he's like, "Zach, why
Yeah.
aren't you filming this?" I'm like, "I am. I got it. We're good."
Yeah,
Like,
right.
so
He Garrett also has a lot of
yeah,
really good techniques, and
he does
we'll get into that later too.
for sure,
So
for sure.
for people, because most of these guys here are ball python guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
So retics, right? When people
yeah.
think of reticulated pythons, they think of like something as big as an anaconda or as big as a berm, or a large snake. So
Yeah, they're thinking of a 20-foot snake that's bigger around than their head. That's what most people I think of. Yeah, when they
yeah.
think of a big
So
snake, for sure.
before we get into dwarfs, let's talk about retics. So do they have localities? Do they have morphs? Can you explain that in
So
Barney
many.
terms?
Yeah, so
Barney
many.
terms.
Yeah, so many. I mean, excuse me, guys. So, retics are a very complex thing to get into these days, right? In my mind. So when we say mainlands, we're talking about kind of the same way that like people in Hawaii refer to the United States as the mainland, right? It's like the biggest
Yeah.
part of the country because most of these animals, reticulated pythons, come from Indonesia. Um, First of all, we can't bring them in anymore. So if there are animals in Indonesia, it doesn't matter what they look like, what size they are, where they came from. We cannot import them into the United States. That has been banned. It's done for. So in terms of any reticulated python in general, um, there's really nothing new to be done anymore. We're stuck working with the stuff we have. That being said, there are some genes, in genetics that have not been fully worked through in large masses and quantities. Things like the ocelot slash rainbow. For those that don't know, ocelot
Yeah.
rainbow basically the same thing. Just depends on who you ask as to what they want to call it. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, they're not much different of any ball python or whatever. I mean, they're males, females, and they come from Indonesia. But the consistent part of them is that they are quite large. The females in these species can get as much as 20 plus feet. That is, again, like on the large size. I
Yeah.
want I want people to understand because I don't think it's talked about a lot. Like, not every female reticulated python is going to hit 20 plus foot. That's
Yeah.
not to say they're not capable of it, but it does take having a hell of a feed schedule for them to reach that point. Um, that said, not everybody can keep a mainland retic, and so I have always considered from the get-go, and this is not to slight anyone or whatever, but this is what I consider to be a fact, and I hope that this is going to become more approachable as a topic. Um, we have to be careful about overbreeding these animals because there are not that many homes in the U.S. or just in general that can offer a comfortable living area for a snake that's going to get 20 plus feet. The room that I'm living in, if it would to me be too small for a snake that's that size. But the beauty of it is that we, as captive breeders, have control over that. We just need to pivot towards what we are and aren't working with, and that's already happening. I mean, any
Yeah.
big snake breeder will tell you that if they're not already working towards breeding smaller reticulated pythons like they should be, or they're going to be out of business. It's just a fact.
100%.
Yeah, so the reticulated python market is a very amazing thing because again they're just amazing animals, but it's just I feel like there's so much opportunity because it's just not it's not presented well. None of it.
I agree. I 100%
Not even a
agree.
little bit. There's so few people with large platforms, anyways, that are presenting these animals as smart as they are and really embracing the fact that like this snake might be smarter than the dog you live with every day that you think is like the smartest creature ever because it has patterns that it's developed and it observes your patterns. Like these snakes observe my patterns just as much if not more than my dogs do.
Yeah.
um,
Right? You're not stupid, right?
right, no, exactly, right, exactly, no, 100%, like, and that's just it.
Yeah.
And it's a flip side too. Like there are people that don't appreciate how smart and comprehensive that dogs are. It's the same
It's
consciousness
vice
to me.
versa. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They both go hand in hand with regards to just
Watch out, Bubba.
being underappreciated often. Um, because man, I'm telling you, like I really do. I believe these retics understand a lot more than we give them credit for. When I take that my bigger girl outside, that's she's a 50% Slayer Tiger Het Rennet Ghost, and she's probably about 10 feet now. Like she gets in moods. There's moods.
Yeah.
There's behavior. There's a lot of things that I notice. That she changes depending on situations, which tells me she's thinking. Like there's an actual thought process with a snake, which is
Yeah.
crazy for most people to hear, but it's factual, and that
And
it does extend into the smaller versions. Because I also have a 5 foot pure super dwarf male right above her, and he is
oh,
so intelligent and so curious and so observant of everything that's going on around him. It's amazing, and he's tiny. He's tiny.
yeah, it's 5 foot. For a retic,
Yeah,
that's, oh, what is
yeah,
that, a subadult? Is that your
yeah. I mean,
yearling?
like, yeah. He's almost 3. So I mean, he's probably still going to grow, but he's probably not ever going to even hit 6 foot long.
Yeah, no, probably not. And
You know,
that's,
and he eats medium rats, so it's not like he's underfed for anybody that's asking.
oh, yeah, right. No, that's like the beauty of the retic, because retics, they do have localities, they do have morphs. And I remember the first time I ever looked into a retic or thought about buying a retic, I was at a show, and I was like, man, I saw this retic and it was so beautiful, and I was like, I would love to have that.
Oh yeah,
And
because
so
they're gorgeous, man.
they are such. I just love their faces, their eyes. Like something about the retics like head really drops my jaw. It's so beautiful. And I was just like, I can't while I'm in the army and I'm moving around all the time. I cannot have a snake that big. Now a
Yeah,
dwarf or a super dwarf, that's a whole other story. That's for someone like me, is an easily houseable snake.
yeah.
So what do you got in your hams right there?
Yeah, so again, this is a pure super dwarf male. He came to me from captive parents, so he's an F1. His
Okay.
parents were both wild caught super dwarfs. The unfortunate thing is that I don't have his locality data, so that does kind of change things for me in terms of like what to breed him with and all that, which is also why I've raised him for so long, right? Because
Yeah.
if I do end up either A, breeding him or selling him to someone who wants to use him for breeding, like I wanted to be able to say that yes, that snake was well fed for 3, 4, 5 years and he stayed that
Oh yeah.
size. You can see he's a little bit reactive,
No, like you said,
even
there's a
still.
thought
But
process. The
yes, but he's
tongue
thinking. You can
flickers and
see him working
yeah.
through it, and he doesn't get held a whole lot. He's definitely my most reactive in terms of all my animals. But again, this is an F1 animal. I mean, his mom and dad were both completely wild caught, and you guys
Beautiful, man.
may have seen me, again, just kind of go in. I tapped him with the snake hook, and then I just reached right in with my hand and just grabbed him out. And he's just wonderful. I mean, he really, really is for
Yeah,
an animal
dude.
of this that close to a wild caught pair, and this size. Because that's just it. Like I said, he's almost 3 years old. I'd
Yeah.
have to check the dates. He might actually be 3 years old now, because I got him not long after the Rennet Ghost pair, and he's just. I mean, he's itty bitty. He weighs less than ball pythons that I have for sure.
He is gorgeous though, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling
Oh,
you, like
I mean, he's amazing. And again, just I mean, super small.
look
I
at
mean, I
that.
can I can very nearly put my fingers
You could
around
see
him.
the
You know,
you could see the iridescent sheen on him, dude.
yeah, yeah, and just
God,
this
I
crazy
love
pattern.
retics. I love retics. I
He's a
really
mess.
do. And it seems to be in big snake species like retics, berms, anacondas, rock pythons. They seem to have the most inquisitive thought process. Even carpets. Even carpet pythons are extremely inquisitive. But it seems like the bigger the snake species, the more you can see the gears turning in their head.
Yeah, I tend to
It's
agree with that.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
because there's
crazy.
something. Yeah, there's something about him. Like even just there, like he panicked for a second because he had gotten himself looped up in something on my desk, and I like pulled it and like it came with him, and I could literally feel him. I could feel him in his belly, like debating on just shitting all over me because he was panicking.
Yeah.
And I could literally feel him being like, "Oh no, everything's cool. We're
It's
going
okay.
to the cage. Everything's fine."
Yeah.
And he like backed out, which I'm glad for because otherwise it'd been a mess on camera. But yeah, they are, man. They're just they think all the time. They think all the time, and I can turn around and lock eyes with them, and that's just it. You know, it's no different than looking my dog in the eyes. I can watch him think, can watch him kind of like consider things, like especially even outside. Like that's just it. Like you got to expose them. You can't just have these snakes and keep them in a fucking box.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I understand. I'm not going to tell people that they need UVB, but I not to humanize anything, and that's where people are going to criticize me. I said this the other day. I can't imagine living my entire life having never even seen what the sun looks like, or felt what grass feels like, or walked barefoot on the ground, or you know what I mean, like just whatever.
I do know what you mean.
Yeah. I completely understand that I am humanizing animals to an extent, right? But I think that's okay to within reason. I don't think that you have to walk your snakes to get them to breed and make them live for a long time. The whole thing.
There's a difference between wanting what's best for your animals and anthropomorphism. Right? Anthropomorphism is being like
yes.
Yeah, it's where people.
It's humanizing. That's the term that I was using without going. Yeah, I don't want to anthropomorphize whatever the fuck the word is. This is why I didn't say it. I've been drinking, but I didn't want to do that.
Drink more, man.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, listen, it's fucking Cinco de Mayo, so we're doing what we can do. But yeah, I don't want to do that because I understand that that's not really the case. The same way that I understand my dog doesn't get it when I'm like whispering to her that I love her and she's wonderful and like to have a great day before I leave for work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, did I hurt my retic this weekend by letting her like cruise out in my yard and see the sun and get pissed? And the other thing was she got pissed as hell when I tried to like stop her from climbing a tree. Because and I take that as like, how cool is that like my snake, this big 10-foot beautiful amazing 50% Slayer retic, she wants to climb this tree that's like bigger around than I can hug, and she could do it. If I let her, she'd be at the top of that tree. And here's the thing, there's a part of my brain that's like, let her do that shit. Obviously I would never, but my point is that it's like, if somebody never told you that waterfalls existed or something, like if somebody never told you that mountains existed and then you were shown one, that's the way that I think about these snakes. Again, I know I'm anthropomorphizing. I know that I am, but like her immediate instinct was like, I want to climb that, and she's never gotten the chance to do it. That sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
Right? It's a So that's the reason I'm bringing all this up, is not to make the point that I'm that keeper that's like, we all got to do way better, and these are the standards that need to be set. You need to walk your snakes every day and take them outside every day. I'm not that guy. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm not that person, but I also understand that I do think our animals would appreciate that kind of stuff if and when we can do it.
I agree.
And I think the care for retics definitely needs to step up a lot.
We're going to get into retic care too. But I get where you're coming from, because you know what? After my first deployment, I came back to the States. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm at my buddy Tyler's place. At the time, he's in college, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at his college dorm, and he's showing me around and everything. And I see this big field with this green grass on it. And I thought to myself, holy shit, I haven't walked barefoot on grass in so long.
Dude.
So, like, on a college campus in front of everybody, I was like, dude, I've been walking in nothing but sand and dirt for a year and a half. I took my fucking shoes off and I just walked barefoot in the grass. And my buddy Tyler looked at me and he's like, man, I never thought that I'd see someone miss something so natural.
Yeah.
And I get where you're coming from. I 100% do.
No, I'm so glad you said that, man, because there's weird things. Again, this is us as humans, but I'm all about energy transfer and just like not like a super hippie way where like that's where what I live my life by every day. But man, I'm big into that shit. I believe in it because I felt it. You know, things as simple as so like anybody that follows me on social media will know like there's a huge field literally across the street from my house that's actually like state-owned property that my dad mows. Like we don't tell anybody that he mows it, but it's literally like acres and acres of this land that's state-owned property that we use as a park for our dogs. And like the local community has started to know about it, and they're walking their dogs over there. It's great, but it's literally just like a park that's surrounded by trees. But there's this beautifully mowed grass in the midst of it all, next to a stream. I mean, it's amazing, and it's right in my front yard, pretty much. And man, when I tell you, like, I had the same thought the other day. I was like, I'm gonna make a point to like walk over there barefoot. And at one point, I just laid down in the grass, just laid down, and closed my eyes and just tried to focus on just like the fact that we're on this like spinning ball that shouldn't exist, that's just happens to be the perfect environment for us and all. And I think I don't mean to go like super deep for everybody here, but it's true. It's true that we all have tough days, and it was a tough day that I was having. We all have tough days, and Brandon, I know you can appreciate that, man. Like not every fucking day is amazing and wonderful and lovely and happy, but it's all about perspective. And so if something as simple as walking barefoot in the grass can remind you of a feeling of being attached to this thing that shouldn't exist already, and you also being a thing that shouldn't exist on this thing that shouldn't exist, that's flying a bazillion miles an hour. Yeah, it's like, I don't mean to be that person that's like that dumbass motivational speaker, but it's true, man. It really is true, and I lose sight of that stuff a lot of times, and so I appreciate you bringing it up because it's tremendous.
Fuck yeah,
it's a tremendous feeling, and we're not the only ones that feel it.
No,
there's an exchange of energy. Anybody that's ever held a big snake over their shoulders should know that.
Yeah, look at my profile picture on my Facebook, man. That big albino berm, dude. Yeah.
Well, Brandon, like you got to see it, man, first person, and I appreciated it because I don't know if this is going to make any sense. I spent like 4 hours of my last day at Arlington literally just carrying a snake around and showing it to people. And I was very aware that like I should have filled that time with filming something for my channel. I should have filled that time, like these are all like the things I should do, right, in terms of like to be successful on social media and all that. But I didn't. I spent 4 hours of my day and then scrambled to almost miss my flight. I walked through security. I know,
you almost missed it.
Yeah, I walked through security and was boarded on my flight. That's like literally, I'm not kidding. I walked through the security gate and my flight was boarding. So that's how close I was. But I spent as much time as I could doing all of that stuff, completely unplanned, by the way. I was handed the snake from a vendor that was, from a vendor was just like, yeah, you just go walk around with my snake and just have fun. So anyways, I ended up spending 4 hours that day just talking to people and educating people about these animals. And my favorite question to ask, because you could see them focusing on it. It didn't matter how young they were, old they were, whatever. I would say, do you feel them breathing? I put this big 8-9 foot retic over their shoulders. Can you feel them breathe? And I knew they could. But you'd watch them pause and really focus. And I leaned into that question so hard because I realized it was so like it made people think, right? Because you're asking me to focus on a feeling I might be getting, and I feel like that was a great question in the sense that it made people stop thinking about what they wanted to ask me, stop thinking about what the snake was doing, and focus on physically what they felt while they were holding it. And there were so many moments, almost all of them looked at me and they were like, Yeah, I do, and you can, and I'm like, did you hear it? Like, 'cause you know how they it sounds like they're hissing, but they're just breathing because of
Yeah,
their vents and all that. And it was the same thing, man. I had that moment to just share with them, of just like, yeah. So not only do you feel them breathing, but now you hear them. This just makes this is such a physical interaction, to the point there was a girl. Her mom walked up and asked me if this girl could hold the snake. And I said, absolutely, for sure. And the girl had on like a fidget spinner necklace, and like I could like she clearly had some sort of like a whether it's a anxiety disorder or some sort of like physical whatever. We're all
yeah,
very aware that there are a lot of different people that have a lot of different issues in terms of mental health, and that equate to physical health too. And I heard her mom mention, as I was putting the snake over the girl's shoulders, she's like, yeah, she's like, maybe like this feeling of being hugged will like calm you down, because the girl was very panicked, to the point
yeah,
that I was
yeah.
like concerned putting the snake over her. I was like, are you sure you're okay? Because she just seemed like tense. And watching her lower her shoulders once the snake was on her, and you're talking about a girl who literally has a necklace that's like a fidget thing, because she just can't handle a lot of interaction in
Yeah, she
big
probably
crowds,
has
especially.
social anxiety.
Dude, major social
Yeah,
anxiety, which I appreciated, because I have myself, which is why a lot of people said like, "Oh, I didn't see you. Like, you're at the show, I didn't see you." Well, I was at the Freedom Breeder booth. Like, it's easier for me to be like kind of have a
yeah,
home base, and we talked about that.
yeah.
But it was amazing, man, to see this young, teenager. She was probably 14 or at the most, or something like that. See this person that literally day to day has an issue, just functioning. Just literally like going to the grocery store, or going to the gas station, or doing things that all of us do every day that we don't really bat an eye at. That I also struggle with
Me too,
stressfully do,
man.
just because of just dealing with the public. But
Yep.
man, to see her get the snake on her shoulders, and have the opportunity to ask her, hey, do you feel the snake breathing? Knowing that she was super hyper focused on that animal anyways, and to see her like smile and tell her mom like give her a thumbs up or whatever, because she couldn't even she just like felt good. Man,
That's
that was
awesome,
that
dude.
that that was one of the greatest moments of my life, of my entire life, to see somebody that was having panic attacks be cured essentially temporarily by having a hug from a 9-foot reticulated python. That spoke volumes to me.
To that's impacting, because that girl's never gonna forget that. Like
No, nope,
that impacted someone's life in such a positive way
yeah,
that it'll be memorable forever, man.
yeah, and her mom, same thing. Obviously, her mom's gonna remember that forever. Her mom took pictures, with the snake and the whole thing, and so I like to think of where things are going as far as what you're doing in the moment. What you're doing right now is only important in terms of how it affects the future. And that's
Yeah,
why I said, I had a lot of stuff that I should have been doing that day in terms of filming. There was a live that we should have done way earlier, and a lot of other stuff that just got put off. And nobody could get me to put this snake away and stop showing it to these kids around the show, um, completely by accident. But just because like I realized how much I loved it, man. And I realized just how much of an impact I was having, but with no effort put in. By the way, I mean almost no
yeah.
effort at all, other than just having an understanding of the way the animal acted and understanding the animal's behavior. For anybody that was curious, like it was a 4-year-old male. What was he? Doesn't matter. He was a super tiger, Spitfire super tiger, I think is what it was.
I think so.
Yeah, and this was to be clear, anybody again,
Yeah,
when I got to interact with him, first thing I did was like grab him by the head, try to kiss him on the face, like make sure I understood kind of his like line. I played with his tail. Earl put his head in his mouth. This particular animal, like Earl
yeah.
literally put the animal's head in his mouth. So we made very 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 sure that obviously it was a good animal ambassador, and those 4 hours were some of the greatest 4 hours of my entire life. So.
And that's the best, man. That's what it's all about, dude. And let's talk about the dwarf and super dwarf, because with this dwarf, with this gene, right? This
Yeah,
genetic piece of the puzzle in retics, this is how you'll be able to make more people like that little girl. So
exactly.
so let's talk about the dwarf, the super dwarf. What is it? Where is it sort of right now in the industry? If you want to go into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so here's the thing. I will preface this just as kind of a clarification for anybody that hears this afterwards. There might be some things I get wrong. There might be some things that I don't 100% nail accurately. And I only say that because as much as I love these animals and I have done numerous years of research, and, again, I bought my first animals from Garrett, well over 3 years ago. Garrett is, in my opinion, is still the official person in terms of like the most knowledgeable on this stuff and basically created the industry. That's not to say there weren't others that were involved in it before him, and again, not to say that anyways, I don't need to get into the drama of what it is. The point is that, yeah, so there's a lot of debate around the dwarf and super dwarf thing in terms of why they are the way they are. And what I mean when I say that is because all these snakes come from Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Mainland retics, I think I said early on, and maybe it was in another live, but you compare it to like the mainland versus Hawaii. It's the same thing. Like, it's part of the United States, but it's way the fuck over there, and it's super isolated.
It's the biggest
islands. Yeah, yeah. But there's these islands over here. So that's how I look at Indonesia, and you can pull this stuff up on a map. And so the theory is sort of like with regards to Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution and the way that those things work, right, is that, like, okay, maybe these mainland retics through a storm or through some happenstance ended up on these small islands off the coast of Indonesia, and because it was such a small island initially, and this we don't know the timeline of when this may or may not have happened. Again, this is all theoretical and none of it's been proven even remotely. Maybe because there was so little food, because it's a small island, so you have small prey items, it makes logical sense to think that, okay, the smaller the island, the smaller the animal is going to grow to, because there's not enough prey on these small islands to support a 20-foot plus retic. And so because this one animal got stuck there and it managed to survive, which again is perfectly reasonable. Retics are survivors. At the end of the day, I mean, these animals are tough as nails. They're super hardy.
Yeah, retics are hardy.
Super dwarves even more so, because same thing. They live in these tough conditions in these little tiny islands. They get hit with hurricanes and everything else. The same as anyone else does, but they stayed alive. So that's where these guys kind of come from, and why they're important is because, again, for those that didn't see, I was holding that pure male who's over 3 years old, and he's probably not over 5 feet long. Compare that to any mainland reticulated python in terms of size. So that male that I was talking about, that I was walking around the show with, that had those genes in it, he's a mainland male. He was about 4 years old, and he was almost 10 feet long.
Yeah, he was a big boy.
Yeah, so more than double the length of that snake behind me. That's a pure super dwarf. And well over double the weight. I mean, like the body size, he was as thick around as my forearm. I mean, he was more than a baseball size around, probably a good softball size around at his thickest part of his abdomen.
Yep.
And so that's amazing in and of itself, to think that this is the same species, perfectly compatible, and yet it gets way smaller, and it's just as intelligent. You lose nothing. I mean, you give up nothing, because that's what I love about the retics, is how smart they are. I don't care about the size. I don't want a big ass snake. None of us do.
You care about what's up here.
Yeah, and more importantly, I care about knowing that, okay, if I'm going to keep these animals that come from the wild that are super fucking smart, I want to make sure that they can use their brains and they don't just feel stunted because they're like, oh, I'm stuck in this fucking box every day. Like, even that is way too small. I'll call myself out. Both of those cages are way too small. That's why my first intention with any dime I make off my ball python clutches this year is I'm spending 100% on retic enclosures. My plan for that girl is I want her to be in at minimum just what I've seen as far as from a production cage that Animal Plastic puts out. They put out a 6 foot wide by 2 feet deep by like 4 foot tall cage, and that's what that's for about a 9 foot female. And I know people that keep snakes that are much larger than her in smaller enclosures. And again, I don't want this to be a negative thing, but it's just the reality that we need to make some adjustments. We need to take some accountability, and I think that from a breeding standpoint, we need to start breeding them smaller. Period. End of story. I don't think the mainland market is sustainable. I've not thought that from the get go, any more so than bearded dragons are. I got out of bearded dragons because I was like, we make way too many. And then I started looking at retics. Then I started looking at retics. I was like, we make way too many of those. Like way too many.
The clutch size of a retic is unbelievable. But so that's the deal with the dwarf, right? Is the goal is to make it smaller. So
yes, smaller, more keepable, more manageable, more marketable to people.
Then do we know what the average-ish? Because the dwarf is still sort of a newer thing, right?
Yes.
So what is the average size-ish of the dwarf?
I apologize. I tend to go off on tangents when I get asked direct questions, and then I don't circle back to all of the details of the question. So size-wise, yeah, no, I appreciate it. So size-wise, again, the girl on the bottom back there, she's a 50% Solaire. So Solaire Island locality reticulated pythons are considered to be the largest of the dwarf reticulated python species, right? The girl that Garrett has, that's a pure Solaire, his bigger girl, she's about 13 feet or so. Now, here's the thing. A 13-foot snake, I wouldn't say is like, okay, yeah, any human being on the planet can manage that by themselves, right? I think that's still a snake that has a disclaimer that goes with it, like, hey, you should probably have somebody kind of making sure that you're okay and like monitoring you when you're taking her out. But but 13 feet is still a manageable size. Like if that girl was 13 feet, if that girl was as big as Garrett's girl, for example, because Garrett's girl's, she's got some size around.
That's the other thing, is how big around.
Yeah, she's got some size around. You know, she's a big girl. But so that's where I would say the length is going to kind of max for anything that's like dwarf, super dwarf. One thing also to preface, so a lot of people don't know this, and this is a highly debated thing. Well, it's not highly debated. It's debated by the people that want to sell you snakes that aren't what they're advertising. Okay, so the rules for super dwarves and dwarves are very black and white. They are not hard and fast rules. They are factual, black and white. These are the facts rules, and they were made up that way for a reason. You cannot sell something according to these rules, these industry standards. You cannot sell something that is 12.5% dwarf as a dwarf reticulated python. You can't do it. Anything you label has to be 50% or more. The reason for that, again, the quick explanation is, so let's say, again, I have that pure male, right? He's a pure super dwarf. He's super tiny. You guys see how small he is. Technically, I could make 50% super dwarfs with him by breeding him to a 22-foot long female who has all the genetics that I want. And I could call those babies, and those babies would be 50% super dwarf, to be clear. However, based on what a lot of us are seeing in the dwarf and super dwarf stuff, the female's size is much more often passed along to the babies. So no matter how small that male is, there's still going to be a large influence from the female. And the reason is because that female is going to lay massive eggs.
Yeah.
Right, so that those eggs in and of themselves, coming from a mainland female compared to a super dwarf female, might be 2-3 times the size.
Yeah,
and that does equate to larger babies, and larger babies does equate to larger animals, generally speaking. So again, you have to be careful about these people that you've never heard of making dwarf and super dwarf animals all of a sudden popping up with them. And that's what makes it complex. It makes it complex from two standpoints. So as an investor, it's hard because you're like, okay, well, who do I actually buy from that I can trust? That's tough, right? It's also tough as a breeder because unless you're doing the things that I do and a lot of us do in terms of advertising yourself and putting yourself out there about the animals you have and being clear about what you're working with, a lot of times people are going to have questions, even around people that they shouldn't. Like, Andrew Acevedo is a pretty clear and concise guy that advertises this stuff very accurately. But if you're brand new to dwarfs and super dwarfs and you never heard of Andrew Acevedo and you've only heard of Garrett, you might automatically be paranoid, But there's also people that are in this that I want you to be paranoid of, because there's some people that are selling animals as like certain percentage super dwarfs and dwarfs that are not true. And so it's a complicated market. It's a complicated market. That's the only thing that is stunting this market from its level of growth, is that, man, it's such an honor system. It's so hard to trust people.
In this industry, it's always been like that. So something that I do, not that was a thing in the late 90s, early 2000s. With ball pythons, when the piebald came out, people were
Yeah.
selling 1.1 het pieds, right, for $12,500, and a single pied was 20 to 25 grand. So
Yeah.
what ended up happening was lots of people sold 1.1 normals for $12,500 that never proved. So eventually, people started making certificates of authenticity. So all my snakes still come with certificates
Yep.
of authenticity that show
Yep.
the male, the female, the hatch date.
Yep.
The day I ship that snake, I take a picture of it on the scale. So
Yep.
that's the weight
Yeah,
of it.
there's no questions from start to
Right?
finish, and that's the way of the future. That's the way that this stuff should be
I
shifting.
hope so, man.
It is.
Has
Because here's the thing is that the buyers are going to dictate that change.
Yeah.
I hope anybody listening to this, do not feel for a second that you are overly picky with anything you are asking for from a seller, especially not in dwarf and super dwarf reticulated pythons.
Yep.
Please, for the love of fucking God, do not buy a dwarf or super dwarf. I'm not kidding. Do not buy a dwarf or super dwarf without literally spending like numerous hours having a conversation with the people you're buying from and having a full understanding of, I'm not kidding, directly back to where the animal was imported. That stuff matters because, like I said, that male behind me, yes, he's a pure super dwarf. I have confirmed that. I know that for a fact. He was sold to me as a pure locality. That's why I bought him. I bought him because I was buying him based on the locality that he was advertised as. Now, I found out about a year after having him, we don't know what locality he is. So all I can tell you is that he is a pure super dwarf because he was definitely produced from parents who were captured on super dwarf islands, but we don't know the exact islands, and so I can't advertise him as a certain locality. So it complicates the process. I may never use him for breeding, despite the fact that, again, he's a tiny animal. He would be great for a breeding project. And again, the thing is if I wasn't the way that I am, I would buy a bunch of breeder mainland females with crazy genetics. I would buy, like, say 5 crazy mainland, or not even buy. I might ship him off. I might reach out to somebody that has some crazy mainland females and be like, hey, let me run this damn pure male that I got from this new line of super dwarf, and we'll just sell them for buku bucks. But the thing is I don't morally operate that way. I want people to buy. I want to improve the project. I want to see the dwarf and super dwarf stuff keep getting better, which means I need to find and or buy and or raise up small locality, retics to keep them small, so we can keep breeding these things to be tinier and tinier, but they keep the intelligence, man. They're like corn snake sized animals that think and observe and watch.
That's so fucking cool, dude.
And interact with you and give back. Like that male you guys might have seen earlier, like he's a little skittish, but like in a good way. Like I appreciate that about him because that's his personality. He's different. He's like kind of not trusting, but like also he's literally never bitten me. He's never struck at me, but also he's like, oh, I bumped into something that I wasn't expecting. Like, what's going on? He's always thinking. So even to observe that from a reptile and watch them process thoughts, like
This shit is cool.
Yeah, we lose sight of that shit, man. Like, so many of us are so busy talking about the business side of this hobby, myself included sometimes, where we forget why the fuck do we keep these animals. Like, I love walking into this room, dude, and like I just installed his ledge for him a couple days ago. I've had the ledge for the cage forever, but I just never got around to like putting the shelf in. And it was cool as shit to me to just watch him like use the shelf. Like I came home today from work and I was like, oh, where's he gonna be? And he was like on a specific part of the cage where he had never sat before. And I'm like, that's exciting because I feel like it's exciting for him because it was new. He got to experience something new today and observe a new environment in it from a different viewpoint than what he got before. And I just fucking want people to not forget, man, that like we don't keep these things for money. Like we keep these things because they're fucking cool. And if we make a nickel, then like that's great. But Jesus, man, like
I could never.
Especially retics and stuff. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
The amount we have to get back.
I'm learning that right now with my Boega. I picked up that Boega dendrophilia at the show. I'm learning that same shit right now.
Yeah,
Because the
yeah,
intelligence, I mean,
it's different.
that's a 6 foot long colubrid
Mm-hmm.
that's venomous. Like
Uh huh.
the intelligence is there. Every time I
Their eyes
open,
are different. Their eyes, they look at
their
you.
yeah, their
They look
eyes
at you.
are, and it's fucking. You're absolutely right because it's fucked. Because I'll dangle food in front of her and
Nope,
she won't
they're
pay no
watching you.
mind to
Yep,
it.
yep,
I'll be like this, and her head's
yep.
like,
Yeah, because she's paying
and
attention to
I'm
what
like,
you have going on, and that's just it, man.
it's so cool, dude.
There's so
I
much of a
love
mutual
it.
respect to be had, and
There is.
it is. I I know that I'm commonly heard, or I guess for anybody, again, just for people that watch me a lot, they know that I talk about this all the time. Dude, this hobby's gonna blow up. This hobby is already in the process of blowing up. We just don't see
Oh
it yet.
yeah.
But it's happening. Again, when you got people like Logan Paul and all those guys, thanks to Miguel, which it was just great. Like, it's a compliment. It's truly a
Oh
compliment.
yeah,
When
absolutely.
you have people like
man.
that coming into the hobby, it's going to get popular. There's going to be some growing pains, all right? There's going to be some growing pains, but it's on the horizon. This shit is happening, whether any of us like it or not. This shit is happening, and so I think that these are the most important topics of conversation that we can have. Where you brought me in tonight, and you were like, "Hey, man, let's not talk about ball pythons. Like, let's talk about anything and everything but."
Yeah.
That's the important shit, because
100%.
there's a gateway, right, and there's all this interesting stuff that I think is going to become vastly even more valuable now because people are trying to stop us from bringing new stuff in even more. People are trying to stop us from keeping more interesting things even further than what they were before. Blackhead pythons, Wilma pythons, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like we need more people working with that stuff that we can't bring in, and it's just fuck. There's no end to how far this stuff is going to go, other than our own mindset. Any of
Yeah.
us that think like, oh, this is as far as I'm like, no, you haven't thought big enough. Think bigger, invest more, do more, lean more into what we all have going on.
Yeah, dude. I've been that way with everything. I'm just like, when I first came in the army, right? I was like the honor grad in basic training, and I was like, that's not good enough. And then when I went to AIT, I was the honor grad in AIT. I was like, I'm still like
Yeah.
not a real soldier yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you're like,
and
you're seeing the example that was set before you
Yeah, dude.
and using that as your standard, but also like, maybe there's something I can do different. Like, how can I change? Like, what's different about the system I'm operating in now that might give me the leg up? Like, maybe there's already an advantage built in that nobody else saw before because it didn't exist until now.
Yeah, dude. And then I don't know. It was just about being a paratrooper, and then I jumped out of airplanes, and then I was cool, and then I became a jump master, and now
It's simple and then it gets complicated.
yeah. And I just want to keep pushing and pushing. And I'm the same way with the snakes, man. I am.
Yep.
There's never a time where I wake up in the morning. Like the first thing I do is like, well, number one, I put my phone under my bed,
Yeah.
right? So when my alarm goes off, I have to get on my hands and knees to get it, and that reminds me that I grew up poor, and that I will never forget what it's like to be on my hands and knees. And then when I stand up, I think to myself, all right, what am I going to do to make myself better than yesterday? Whether
Yeah.
it's go to the gym or read another chapter of I'm on a dwarf Cayman kick right now. So
Yeah.
read another chapter of my dwarf Cayman
Just
book.
information, man. But
Yeah,
all of it's
whatever it
important.
is.
All of it's relevant. Like, that's.
And you put that into snakes, man.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
99.9% of the information that I have, man, that is going to make me successful. Because that's the thing. I tell people all the time, I'm nobody. I'm still nobody. I continue to be nobody. But I officially like came on to this scene, in terms of like putting myself out there, basically a year ago during COVID. I'm not afraid to admit that. I was a bartender. I didn't have the time, or I didn't dedicate the time to doing the social media aspect of this hobby, right? I was working my ass off, spending every nickel and dime that I had on my animals, and any time I had outside of that, I was spending with them, and I wasn't documenting any of it. COVID gave me the opportunity to be able to lean into what I love, and realistically just realize that I love it, because it gave me
Yeah.
time away, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is actually where I want to spend my time. Like, this is not just some chore at the end of the day. Like, this is what I love. But the importance of that, man, is just like, it's easy to. it's easy to think that this is like a thing that you want to get into for the money or whatever. But at the end of the day, nobody escapes from the work. Nobody escapes from the work whatsoever. And the only reason that anybody is ultimately in the long term going to be successful, including on the social media aspect, is because we put in the work. And so, you know, I thought ahead and I was like, hey, I need to start talking about my animals and what I'm doing with them now, because I'm going to have some pretty cool shit available in like 4 to 5 years. And I need to be able to sell that stuff, because right now, if I had a $5,000 ball python, I don't know who the fuck's going to buy it.
Yeah, you need to market.
Yeah.
You know, and that's...
And people hear that shit, dude, and they get scared. It's so fucking easy. This market easy. Especially because it's small. All you got to do is talk to people.
Yeah, like you and me right now, dude.
That's literally what I was going to say. Like, you're my friend because of just exactly that. Like, I put myself out there. I met you. I was introduced to you by Alyssa, which was wonderful. But again, it's just each relationship builds upon each other, and then you realize like, oh, I like this person. Like, I've seen what they're putting out because I'm friends with this person, and I know them because of X, Y, and Z. And it's just there's this spider web that happens, and that's so important, and it's more important than like, oh, if you want to sell ball pythons, you need to do what I do and put yourself out there and be active in the comments and this and the other. No. I want people to be active in the comments that don't give a fuck about selling ball pythons. Like, I want people to do the stuff that I'm doing
because they love it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because it hurts my heart, man. It hurts my heart when I talk to so many fucking people. I mean, and so many. And I'm nobody. Like, that's the thing. I keep this perspective. I don't have that many followers. Like, I just hit 1,100 on Instagram or whatever. If I have the amount of people reaching out to me with my level of a following that are telling me, like, that they just don't feel confident enough in, like, talking about things, or they feel embarrassed, or they've, like, been shunned, or this and the other thing, like, dude, that hurts my heart more than anything in the world, because I want those people to be the ones that are shouting the loudest, so that people like me that feel like they want to teach them and want to educate them will find them. Like that's the way it's supposed to work, but it doesn't. It's like the people that are shouting the loudest are those people. They're, oh, hey, I'm brand new to the reptile hobby. I just got in. I just bought my first snake, and they're commenting in the comment section of Billy's video, or a Justin, a premiere or whatever, and nobody gets to these people, man. Like that, I want that to be my fucking legacy in this hobby. That if nothing else, if Zak never made $1 million off selling snakes, like, Zak welcomed fucking people to this hobby in every chance that he got. Like, that's what I want to fucking contribute.
That is some beautiful shit. And people forget what it's like, because I don't think I'm anybody. Like, I have like 4,500 followers, which is a lot, but it's not a lot.
Yeah. We're compared to the top tier, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I don't have 3 million followers on YouTube.
No, but I have a lot of people in my messages asking for help. I have a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of the people I just give my personal phone number to. Because I'm just
me too. It's on my business card. For anybody that's got my business card, you have my personal cell phone. I was super uncomfortable with that, by the way, but I'm just like, fuck it, they're already printed. Like, I already, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, lean into it. And I don't mind at all. Like, I think anybody that's ever reached out to me can tell you I've gotten back. Yeah, I mean, it's but that's what it's all about, dude. Like, all of us have to lift each other up.
Yeah, remember where you came from. Don't forget what it's like to have less than 100 followers, and help your fucking buddy. And share your love and your passion for your animals. And if you, like you said, if you can make a nickel doing it, fucking good on you.
Yeah.
But it's not about the nickel.
Leave your mark, I think, is the biggest advice that I would give to anybody. Like, leave your mark, and whatever that means to you. Like, because that's a lot of people complain about blanket statements. That's a blanket statement that fits for everyone. Leave your fucking mark. Like, leave your mark. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just as long as you can fall asleep at night. Like exactly, like Megan. The messages like that, man, mean more to me than anyone will ever understand. That means more to me than hanging out with, Brian Cusco and hanging out with all those guys and spending time and the whole thing. Like, those are the messages that matter, dude. Like that.
Yeah, dude.
My favorite thing, again, outside of like the time that I spent with that retic at Arlington, was like having people that I legitimately didn't recognize. And I, by the way, I want to bring this up. I apologize to anybody that tried to say hi to me that I missed out on, because I'm squirrel brain, as obviously you guys know. Anybody that I missed, or anybody that like felt like I didn't know who you were, I'm really fucking bad with names and like even a lot of times visuals. So like unless you told me your like Instagram following or whatever, like if in other words, if you and I have spoken like online and I kind of acted like I didn't know who you were in person, I apologize. That's just totally not intentional, even
Same.
remotely. And yeah,
I do it all the
Brandon, I was
time.
going to say, you and I feel like it's hard, dude. It's a lot to keep up with.
There's a lot of people out there, man. And unless you're like talking to me regularly, I can't. I'm sorry.
No.
I did a lot of drugs before the army.
It's not even about that. I mean, it's a little bit of that, but it's a little well, yeah, it's a little bit about that. Yeah, it's a little bit about that, but yeah, so we share that for sure. But it's mostly just literally it's
so
again,
funny.
it's hard to talk about because it's hard to be humble while saying like, listen, there are so many people that reach out to me that I cannot remember you. That is the facts, though. There are so many people and so many amazing conversations that, in all seriousness, like if you guys reach out to me and we've had a heartfelt conversation, like understand that I meant everything that we talked about. It doesn't mean that I'm going to recognize you. If you're like, Zach, I know you in person, don't take offense if I don't recognize you off the rip. Because I despite the fact that, like I said, that conversation genuinely meant something to me, I'm not always going to recognize you right out of the gate. And the second that I do, I'm gonna give you a big hug. But there was a few moments at Arlington where I felt kind of bad because I'm like, shit.
Same here, and I'm going to tell you something. There's a reason I didn't recognize two guys specifically. They have beautiful animals, and I knew who they were when they told me their company name, but they don't put their face on their page. It's literally their logo, and everything's animals.
Yeah.
Cool.
See, and
that's fine, but...
hey, for the record, before you even finish what you're saying, I have to say this. Anybody that's on Instagram, two major fucking things. If you're on Instagram and you're trying to promote yourself in this hobby, do not have your pages private. If your page is private, I'm not going to follow you back. I'm not going to concern myself with what you have going on because obviously it's I understand why a lot of people might do that because like their initial trepidation is like, oh, well, I need it private. No, you need to be as public as humanly possible. If you don't want your private page public, then you need to make a new page.
Yep.
First of all, because that's a big one. It bothers the shit out of me because I'm like, you either do or don't want to have a following. The other one is don't like do the whole follow thing and then just like unfollow people because we see that shit. First of all, and just fucking be genuine. Like be genuine and be consistent with what you got going on.
Yeah,
that's all I even ask for. And don't get upset if I don't immediately recognize you. That's the other thing. But yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I got a good one. I will be moving to North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about that very briefly. I'm super stoked, man.
In August, definitely got to have you over one day.
Yeah.
But, so, there's a few people I was talking to in Tennessee because I thought about moving there first, and once I found out I can't have venomous there, I was like, no, North Carolina it is. But one of the people I was talking to specifically breeds retics, and she says to me, I think I'm going to move to North Carolina because Tennessee's caging laws for retics are really shitty. Because, she was like, you can have retics in stuff that are too big and too small. There is a just right. So, my next question for you is a two-part question. So, for retics, we'll go with super dwarf and mainlands. What are your caging requirements as far as size? And what is your cost for that is the second part, financially.
Yeah, no, dude, those are great questions. I'm glad we kind of touched on it briefly, but I'm glad you brought it back up because it is super important. And I think, like I said, I love the retic market. I love reticulated pythons, and I think that those things obviously need to be worked because there's stuff that exists in mainlands that does not exist yet in dwarf and super dwarfs. But I think that anybody that's working in mainlands that's not shifting their gears towards working with people that are working with these really small bloodlines is doing a disservice to themselves. And I think they know that. Based on a lot of things that I've heard in terms of what people have proposed to keep the retic market afloat. Anyways, so I think that's important. Sorry. Reiterate the main point of the question. I apologize. I went off a little bit of a tangent there.
No, you're good, man. Say goodbye.
Sorry, I got squirrel brain. Yeah. Squirrel brain and beer. So.
Okay. So, caging requirements for
Yeah, caging.
mainland,
Okay, yeah.
and then cost on the cages.
Yeah, so okay, all right. So I'll dive straight into that. So caging requirement for a mainland, to me, there's no limit, man. I don't think that there is a single person. This is a bold statement, and I hope that people. No, fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. This is
Yeah,
gonna piss.
fuck 'em,
This
bro.
no, this is the truth. This is gonna piss a lot of people off. It's probably gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable. But here's the reality. I don't know of almost anyone that keeps their mainland retics properly. I think if we're all very honest, based on what we now know, based on how we observe our animals, I don't think almost any of us keep our mainland retics properly. I just don't. I think I mentioned earlier, like the room that I'm in, is probably like a 300 or 400 square foot room, and like, dude, this room is not big enough for a mainland retic. Like because the thing is, I think about it. I'm like, I've seen a mainland retic in person. I know about how big that is. There could be a mainland retic curled up in the corner of this room right now. This room is not enough for her to move around and be happy and like exist in life. Like it's just not. It's not.
Yeah.
Now, if your minimum existing enclosure for a retic of 20 foot is a 300 plus square foot room, then you're doing pretty fucking well, and I think that retic's probably gonna be pretty happy.
Yeah.
I just think that they're a tough species to keep in captivity, man. I just think that the range that they run in the wild, I think, is a lot bigger than what we understand, and so yeah, my heart hurts for retics a lot. It's a very emotional thing for me to talk about, and I don't talk about it often because it bothers me. I mean, it genuinely bothers me because I'm involved in that, because again, I have a 50% Solaire female. That's not going to be a small snake. I mean, I think when she maxes size, I think she's going to be probably 12, 13, 14 foot. She's not going to be little. And so I'm at that point with this project, and this is the first time I've talked about it publicly with literally, or just in general. I haven't talked about this to anyone. I have debated for myself, one of two things. I've debated on selling the project because I'm like, the next cage that I want to buy, if I keep this project going, okay, is, I think I said early on, like a 6 foot by like 2 foot deep by like 4 foot high.
Yeah, the animal plastics.
Just for her, from Animal Plastics. Yeah, I mean a very big cage, and then I would want to like modify it beyond that, like for her, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. If she's the only snake that I'm going to keep, and she's that size and the whole thing. Where I'm at with it though is that I'm thinking also like, okay, well, yeah, but I have this breeding project with her, right? So there's babies to account for, and so I'm thinking like, okay, like, well, what are the size of these babies going to be? I'm going to have to keep a ton of them back because we're talking about possible hets, and so it's a stressful thing. It's a very stressful thing, and I'm torn on it, man. I'm very torn. I love the dwarf and super dwarf market, but here's the thing about the project that I'm in on is that it's so new that, as with any other dwarf and super dwarf project, the size starts out as big as, or closer to mainland size, right? All of these babies have the potential to probably hit 13 to 14 feet. I think.
You have to be able to house all that.
Right, and so me as the person that's choosing to make these breedings, these pairings, I'm like, how many? So again, here's the thing. I don't know all the information there. Garrett does, and what I will say is that Garrett is very confident in the project. Garrett is who I'm working the project with. So this female that I have, again, she's a 50% Solaire. She came from smaller stock. She didn't actually come from Garrett. Garrett's got like a 14 foot pure Solaire. She came from a smaller mom. She did come from, I believe, a pure Solaire female, as I understand it. So smaller bloodline in general. So if she maxes out as 13 feet as a 50%, she's still pretty small. But again, it's not a big snake, but not a small snake, but I think it's a manageable size. My point is, I really want to make sure I understand getting into it that the babies are going to be small enough to be reasonably sold to people, based on a very true expectation. So that's what I want to talk more with Garrett about. Again, he's very confident about the project because the male we're putting is a pure Tombolongan. So I can pull him out. He's not big. Come here. Yeah, I see it.
No, that's like a 70 series tub.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. He's literally
big.
and he's literally in a 70 series tub.
Yeah,
And
he's not big.
you guys kind of see, and he's about a year old.
Look at
So,
the colors on him, man.
oh, dude, here's the thing. Y'all have no
He's
idea.
popping, bro.
He's yellow. Y'all
Yeah, he's
might not be able to. He's super super yellow, and this is just like, yeah, I just yanked him out of his tub and like made him angry, and he's
Yeah, he's
trying
all
to climb on
pissed
top
off.
of the water. Yeah, but that's how he is. Like his because I've had the snake basically since he was like practically born. He doesn't care about much.
Oh, that's a good snake, man. Damn.
Yeah, I mean he's a good animal, and he's super small size. So that's just it. So within the year, this small of an animal is going to be breeding with her. So the baby should shrink quite a bit in size.
Yeah.
I mean at his largest, he's smaller than a golf ball around.
Yeah. That's good though, dude. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Right? This whole conversation we've been having, like what you have in your hands now is the goal. And that is a beautiful, beautiful outcome,
Yeah. In my opinion, we could literally just breed pure Tom Belongans forever, because like I said, he's a male. Males are going to stay smaller with retics. I don't think we could produce enough of these. I really don't. And this locality, unfortunately, there's not a lot of pure specimens. And again, on top, like I said, the camera is showing him as being a little bit yellow. Dude, in person, I keep telling Garrett, I'm like, Garrett,
I know how yellow he is.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm like, Garrett, I'm gonna have to drive him back to your facility for you to see his colors. I mean, he's so yellow, and those side rosettes are like blue.
I love his dorsal pattern too.
Yeah. I mean, he's just
cool, man.
he's just perfect. And again, this was a holdback of Garrett's. Garrett actually, I literally, he and I were late night in Garrett's basement, and he was like, hey man, he's like, I got to hold back a pure from this Tom Belongin clutch. He's like, I've got these animals, and he and I literally discussed it together, and he picked out this male to hold back. And then when I was leaving his facility, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, like you're taking that guy with you. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I want you to raise him up. He's like, I want you to post him on social media. I want you to talk about Tom Belongins. And he's like, whatever. And there was never any intention of me breeding him here.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I had the male to match with that het rennet ghost female. So when I lost that het rennet ghost female, unfortunately, we had to change gears. But I think in the long term, it's going to be a great project. So
That's
year one, because year one, you're talking about 50% Tom Belongin, 25% Solaire. So you've got both localities that are super yellow, like crazy intense color, like this pure male. You've got the potential for visual tigers, and then obviously everything is going to be pos het rennet ghost. And there are currently 0 rennet ghost hets or visuals in terms of dwarves or super dwarves.
So my advice to you, my friend, stick out that project.
Yeah, and that's what I say.
Yeah.
I only get frustrated just from a standpoint of just their care, because again, I know she's happy, man. I take her out, every day as much as I can and get her some natural sunlight and let her cruise through the grass and climb up me and climb as much as possible. But I know that she's not climbing nearly as much as I would like her to. I genuinely do. I think that's my direction I want to go is I want to just buy her, drop the cash on a giant enclosure for her and have her really be the biggest snake I ever have. You know what I mean? And just get smaller from there, with this project. And I hope that that's going to be the case. But
so
yeah,
that's
it's going to be great.
That's the set. It is going to be great. I can't wait to see it. I will probably invest. You know me, man. I'll probably invest in something that's successful. But that's the second part of the question is, what's the cost for that cage, you think? Roundabout if.
Yeah, so for the animal plastics, like the production cage that I'm looking at, because I kind of honestly want something a little bit bigger than what they're doing, but the production cage that's like way big, and compared to most people's standards even now, it's like an $800 cage. I think maybe there's a little bit of shipping involved, and so you're probably like to your door with a heat panel and all that. You're probably talking about $1,000, but that's
Okay.
for one animal. Of that size, and again, like even a small animal, I think you could put in that cage and they'd be happy.
Yeah.
Reticulated pythons love space. I mean,
I use them as I use green iguanas as an example. It's like finally as a hobby we've realized that these are not just dumpster animals, and we need to like keep them in these huge enclosures, and they deserve a lot of space to run around and move and climb. That's the same way that I feel about retics. Like I feel like we need to step our game up in terms of what we're using as the minimum, and I think that we need to be doing a lot more with them. So that's kind of where I'm at with her, is that, like I said, I'm literally on the point. I'm like, I'm gonna either buy her and pay like probably about $1,000 to my door for this crazy huge enclosure, and make sure that she's super comfortable, or I'm gonna sell her on. And I don't see that. I don't see doing that, because I just realistically know what's gonna happen if I sell her to somebody that's willing to buy her. Or, maybe I could find the right person, but I just don't think that most people are gonna follow through with the vision that I have for her. Because she means so much to me, especially having lost her brother to cancer. That's a snake that, even though she's a world's only, and she could do so much, like even if she never produced babies for me, man, I'll never get rid of that
sentiments.
Snake. She's the first snake that I spent money on. Really, she's the first investment animal I bought. Was her and her brother.
Damn. Yeah, you gotta keep that.
Yeah,
for real.
And it's just like it's crazy. It's just crazy to think about where I'm at now as to where I started. I started off, wanting to get back into snakes, watching Garrett's videos, and then it was like, oh, I found myself at Garrett's house, and then I found myself with Garrett being like, hey man, yeah, like that
Dude.
hold back male, like yeah, just take it home with you, because I trust you and I want to see what you do with it.
That's fucking wild.
These guys are so fucking cool.
Dude, they really are.
They're just amazing.
Retics, carpets, berms. They're so fucking smart, dude. All right, so the next one, right, is more along the lines of people who don't keep retics, who want to keep retics, right? So people who keep small pythons and colubrids, what are some things they need to know if they want to keep retics as far as safety goes? Hook training. How do they approach the enclosure? How do they want to pick the snake up, and so on and so forth?
For sure.
What sort of precautions would you take with a retic as opposed to a small python or colubrid?
Yeah, no, for sure, man. That's a really great topic, and it's important, because even I kind of lost sight of this at the show, briefly, because I'm so used to dealing with like a 9-10 foot female, right? I kind of like started breaking my own rules, not intentionally, but just because I was like, oh, I'm not worried about it. I wasn't thinking. So a general rule that I stick to is that with especially with the larger animals, and well, I'm not even going to say that, because I think people underestimate what we mean when we say large animals. The reality is that like if this animal got a hold of me and my hand and was around my neck, right, and my hands weren't available to him, or for some reason like he was able to actually get around my neck and like stop my blood flow for long enough, like I wouldn't be able to get him off. That's the thing. And he's tiny. I mean, he's super tiny. He's smaller than a corn snake. You guys see, like he's itty bitty. And again, obviously a super well behaved animal. But it is amazing how strong these guys are, and I think a lot of people don't understand like the pressure points that we have available to us, that like if you lose blood flow to a couple different arteries in your neck, like you'll pass out. Whether you're not going to die and you're not going to suffocate, but you will pass out. So anyways, my biggest thing for most people, sorry, let me put him away because I can feel his stomach gurgling. I don't want to get
don't get pooped on.
Yeah, he's staying there. All right. So the biggest thing is I never allow them to get basically around my neck. Kind of a general rule is like when I have my big girl out, I will let her go over one side of my shoulder and underneath my arm on the other side.
That's a good rule.
Yeah, and her thing is she'll keep cruising, and she'll kind of like try to get close to your neck. They like feeling close. They like feeling they're climbing up something. I will literally like go like this and like put my arm through her, because her head will try to kind of close that gap. Not because she's trying to kill me, for the record. Anybody asking?
Yeah.
It's just she's naturally trying to hold on to the closest part of what she considers to be this warm tree that is holding her. So I will literally like
put my hand between her and like force her to wrap, one shoulder. Exactly. Yeah, and I was gonna say, yeah, Dylan is a great example of somebody to ask because he works with a ton of big snakes, and I think that's kind of a general rule. But I never heard it talked about a ton. But it is true. Give them one shoulder where you're actually supporting their weight, and then allow them to wrap under with the other one and support everything else with your hands. And again, I do that even with just the smaller animals because you just never know. And that's super important for people that you're trying to show. Hey, yeah, hold this. Same thing, so that it can happen quick. Where somebody accidentally becomes uncomfortable with the snake. Where the snake just ends up in this general area because they're around their shoulders. No, go. Yeah, so take it over a shoulder and under an armpit, and then you don't have that problem. Because I did almost experience that.
Yeah, fuck that. So
yeah, it made me. Yeah, I was like, okay, let me not do that again.
No. So back in the day, I remember when I was a younger man. There's a lot of myths. Well, we call them myths now. Back then, we just didn't fucking know. Back then we were learning still that retics were cage aggressive. We now know that there's no such thing as an aggressive snake. They're defensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how would you approach like a full-grown mainland in its enclosure, right? Because I could open up a tub and come from up top, grab a ball python. Doesn't matter, right? Do you like to use the hook? I saw you use the hook earlier.
Yeah. So any of my bigger animals, and again, I observed this with Garrett, because I don't have like large snakes. I mean, here's the thing: if I pulled her out, for most people, she'd be super large. she's not small. I do have about a 10-foot retic. So it's not like I work with baby snakes, but my approach in general, realistically, it doesn't change for almost any animal. And the reason I say that is because, as you saw, I saw you use a hook earlier. Like I use a hook all the time, and that's just to be kind of consistent. So I established that kind of understanding, because even I can be startled, right? Like I don't know about all of you guys, but I've always had English bulldog. I had an English bulldog. Like if he was actually sleeping, like snoring, like actively asleep, you didn't want to sneak up on him because he would accidentally bite you because he was just, like when startled, like that was his reaction. He wasn't a bad dog. Yeah, he was just like, he was kind of paranoid, I guess, in that way, and he was a male, and so I get it. I almost got bit by him one time because I woke him up. Just like I startled him, and that was his initial reaction, not because he was a bad dog, and then he calmed right down. I was like, oh shit, my bad. Yeah. So that's the way that I see approaching the hook training with the retics. Is just to literally be like literally because the thing is like that my big girl. There are also days where I approach her cage and I can see that she's already active and so a lot of it's just experience. It's experience with your individual animal. It's experience with animals in general. Because the same way, like I can judge a lot of dogs, just by their body language a lot better than a lot of people can. Even their own owners sometimes. I can see things before they happen. And so I again, this is not like to toot my own horn or whatever, but I'm an observant person. I feel like I do recognize body language pretty well. And the same way with snakes. And so they definitely have their body language. Yeah, dude, English bulldogs are amazing. We've had 4 or 5 of them over the years, and they're just some of the best animals ever. I haven't had Frenchies, but I think my next dog at some point will be a Frenchie. I still have one dog that's alive that I've had for about 10 years. So I don't want to think about having any other dogs for a long time. But anyway, so it's like I said, the retic stuff. The biggest thing is the hook training, and then just again. Because your example is like, hey, if you were walking into a big enclosure and you had a big mainland, and somebody said, hey, I need you to get that snake out. How would you approach it? Is the way that I'm thinking of your question.
Yeah.
Very slowly and very observantly. To me, their moves are pretty much obvious. Their modes are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
They dictate and indicate a lot of things with their head, with their eyes. And with their tail. And so, like I said earlier, I had that male out and I did something that kind of freaked him out and I was like, shit, he's going to musk everywhere. And he didn't. But the thing is that body language, like he did flick his tail the same way he would as if he musked, but it's like he realized halfway through that motion that he's like, oh, it's cool.
We're good, yeah.
Yeah, it's just dad. Like everything's actually okay. I started to freak out, but everything's cool. So, and again with him, it's mostly I don't handle him nearly enough. That's 100% me calling myself out. But it's So again, if somebody said, hey, there's this 20-foot retic we need removed or whatever the fuck, yeah, I'm gonna approach it with a damn snake hook, and I'm gonna watch its face more than anything, and I'm gonna be very particular about like where I touch it on the body. Am I gonna touch it close to its neck? Probably not. I'm gonna just kind of give it. Obviously, visually, it knows that I'm there. It knows my heat signature. For me, I would give it a tap like more close to the midsection where it's like it's not feeling vulnerable. The closer you are to the head or the tail, they feel vulnerable. You don't ever want to have a retic feel like you're holding it. And that's the advice I was giving to even the kids, little kids that were holding that 8 or 9 foot snake. I said, and even the older people, because they were nervous. And I said, hey, whoa. I said, because they would do this. I said, don't close your hands. I said, I said, hey, I said, your hand that you're starting to close. I said, do you feel them tensen up? They said, yeah. I said, just do this, and they would, and you could visibly see the snake go, oh, everything's cool again. Yeah. And I said, look, I said, you're just trying to be a tree. And so, I approach everything that way, man, as if it's just, listen, I'm not a threat. I'm going to interact with you, and I'm going to touch you, and you're going to know that I'm here, and I might, like, move you physically, but realistically, I'm not trying to threaten you. I'm not trying to restrict you. I think that's the biggest thing with retics. You don't want to restrict them in any way. If they feel restricted, they panic. They absolutely panic.
That's a good... I like that methodology. You're putting something in place, the hook, between you and the animal, and it shifts the modes, right? Like my Boega, that's what I'm doing right now with my fucking Boega, is hook, food, or hook, lift, right? Well, with the tub, what I do is I call like the tap method. I'm trying to do where I'm just like tap, food, right?
Yeah,
so
perfect.
So I do the same thing, man, with every type of. Even I got a wild caught Indonesian import blue tongue skink that has like. I like animals that are hard to keep. It has crazy requirements. Like the humidity has to be 80 or higher. The temperature has to be like 110.
100, I was gonna say 110 plus. Yeah, that's why I don't keep Uromasics. I love Uromasics, but man, they're
beautiful.
Tough.
Yeah. So that fucking skink, man, I'm so patient. I could watch a piece of grass grow for 20 years. That's how patient I am. But this skink's really trying my patience. I'm trying to socialize it in every way I can. It's been about a year, and I haven't broken it, but I will not give up because, like you, I love the animal, and I just want to interact with it. That's it. I don't want to hurt it. I just want to watch it eat.
And even here's the thing: even if it hates your guts forever, right? Like, your best you can hope for at that point then is like, okay, at least can I establish an understanding, right? Like, you might still always want to fucking bite me. Like, I might never be able to hold this lizard. But can we at least establish an understanding of, like, when I do these things, like there's food incoming, or when I do these things, can I clean your cage without bothering you? I don't need to touch you. You can be over there and do your own thing and exist in your own world, and I don't need to touch you. But if I can train you to, like, understand, like, at least this part's okay, then, like, that's a win. And then it is a tremendous win.
Yeah, I'm there. I want to get it to the next level, but he's just not fucking having it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll still enjoy it.
And is this a wild caught animal, you said?
Yeah, this is wild caught.
Yeah, and so again, man, like, that's the thing. Like, dude, that's literally the best case scenario. The best you can ask for is for, first of all, that animal to just settle in and this is maybe a depressing thing, but just accept that, like, this is where I exist now. This is my home. This is where I live. And you can give him the best life possible, right? In terms of room to move around and, the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, modern resident quitter.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can hope to gain some understanding on your part, right? Because I think that's the more important part of anything, is just that exchange, and to never assume that we know what the fuck is actually going on. And to also
Yeah.
to share that information, because just like what I was talking about with Miri, with like, hey, you're working this project, but you're not shouting it from the mountaintops. You're working this project. Like,
Yeah.
please do that for all of us, because I'm not asking you to talk about it to make yourself sound good. I'm asking you to talk about it so that the next person that comes behind you that wants to work with the shit you're working with has your information to go off of. Like,
Yeah,
that's where the disconnect is.
exactly.
And that's where social media is a real fucked up thing, because again, you have all these people that are like, oh, this
That
fucking person is just
info.
arrogant and they just want to hear themselves talk and promote themselves. It's like, no, no, no. You don't
Not at
understand.
all.
These
Yeah.
videos last forever, and at least until fucking Google and YouTube goes away, which is not anytime soon. The point is that in fucking 10 years from now, I want the guy that's also never worked with this fucking species that Brandon's working with to be able to say, like, oh, hey, interesting, that's very cool to observe that, and maybe he's gonna
Yeah.
catch some fucking behavior that Brandon doesn't even know about yet, because none of us know about it yet, because it's a fucking species that hasn't been worked with a lot.
Dude, exactly.
Rather than us all shitting on each other for like, oh, you shouldn't work with us. Wow, they're fucking wild caught. Like, how dare you? Get the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Be a smart fucking person and understand that we're all working towards the same shit. We
Yeah,
all
man.
just want this love and passion that we have to be accepted and done well, and give as much respect as humanly possible to these animals. That's where they
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, where are we at? Okay. So, how do you? Okay. There's been some stats, some statistics
Uh
over the past couple years that show that people, who've released their retics. So this is retics and berms,
oh.
both. That every year they're finding them in the wild on the East Coast, further and further north, which people were weary about because obviously the more north you go, the colder it gets.
Sure.
And they're saying like, oh, global warming, or these snakes are adapting, or whatever the case may be. What do you think about that? What do you think about those species, the retics found? And I say found because we all know.
So
where they come
I
from.
think it's a very interesting topic, right? Because we're all aware, with the exception of those that are ignorant among us that just think that everything we do is secretive and nobody knows about it. I think that applies to some people, which is weird. Like, it's weird to me that so many people still think this is underground and we can just like operate however we want and nobody's
They're
gonna know about it.
oblivious.
Everything that we do at this point is basically monitored or tracked in some way, right? Like whether we are aware of it or not. I think that's a reality, and that's not like a conspiracy thing. That's just the truth, because it's like, even if you're not talking about it while you're doing it, your buddy's talking about it while he's doing it, and there's all this just interesting stuff that's going on behind the scenes, which is fine. So the thing is, you've probably seen, and we've all seen some arguments around like social media and stuff, right? Because it's like, oh, well, you have to be careful about what you post because it represents us all, and this and the other. And I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
However, I also don't want that. My worry, to an extent, is that I don't want that to turn into like, oh, well, don't ever post anything ever. Because listen, when I started posting about the hobby that I was interested in a couple years ago for the first time ever, and this is a hobby that I had been involved in since I was a teenager. I've always loved reptiles, but I didn't post about it. I didn't talk about it, right? When I first started posting and talking about it, I had a lot of friends who were like turned off by it, right? Because they just were, they were like more acquaintances or whatever. Like, we weren't close, and they had never heard me talk about it, and they had no idea that I was so interested in it. And they also, again, were completely ignorant to it. They knew nothing. They knew nothing about these animals. They knew nothing about keeping reptiles as pets. They knew nothing about all of the positives and just the interest, and like what it does for kids and things like that. They had no concept.
Oh, hold on, guys. We're good.
I knew one of my AirPods was gonna die.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're good.
All
We
right,
can hear you.
so but my point is that those are things we can't change. You know, those people, because they're not involved in this hobby. Okay, these are people that are outside of the hobby that never would have even known about the hobby if it wasn't for just a random interaction with somebody like me. And the only reason that I had the reach that I had was because, again, I was a bartender locally. So, you know, I dealt with hundreds of people every day in a small neighborhood. And so I have personally seen it where, again, just as somebody that was like at the center of kind of this community, I have changed minds on these animals. You know, I have people that are telling me all the time, they're like, Zach, like, I had no idea how cool these were or whatever. Like, I had a friend of mine that I worked with at the bar. She went down north to New Orleans, and she was like, "Oh, I had my picture taken with this Burmese python," and she sent me that, and she was so excited about it.
Yeah,
Like, we all need to be those people. Is where I'm going with this.
I
All of us
agree.
have to be like, we can't keep this shit under wraps. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not conducive to what we're trying to do. It's the biggest disservice that any of us can do to this thing that we love is to be quiet about it. And I believe that for everything. I mean, everything that you're interested in, talk about it all the fucking time. I'm not kidding. I don't care if you're into ball pythons, reticulated pythons, or fucking video games. Like, whatever it is that you love, please take my advice. Listen to me. Look me in the fucking eyes when I'm saying this shit. Lean into what you love. Talk about it all the time. Talk about it until it's uncomfortable, because
Fuck
if
yeah.
because if you don't get excited publicly about the things that excite you, like on your own, on an individual basis, like, what's the fucking point? Like, you have to share what gets you excited. You
Yeah,
have to,
dude.
because us talking about the stuff that gets us excited is where the next generation comes from. We need to be putting out as much content that's positive as humanly possible. And so that's where, again, I understand the debate comes in as to, like, oh, these people are promoting this in a bad manner because, like, oh, this guy's like free handling venomous or whatever. Okay, that's fine. Document the way that you do shit, because
Yeah.
you're one more person that can be an example on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or wherever the fuck you want to post it. I would encourage you to
Yep.
post it everywhere. But my point is that even if you only post just mildly, if you really want to have an effect on this hobby and you feel like you have the means to do it, please start posting on social media and do it in a responsible way, because we need,
Mm.
yeah, that's what's going to actually have
Responsible way.
an
Yep.
impact. And all of us can do that. Literally all of us can do that. We all have a cell phone in our pocket. If we want to put the effort in, we can absolutely, every single one of us, have an impact without costing us a single dime.
Dude. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
this hobby, I love it to death, but it's maddening from many angles, for sure.
You ain't wrong. All right. So this was like gonna be my favorite question to ask you.
Let's go.
But
I'm so ready because you look so happy about it.
well, you answered it a gajillion times in so many different ways, which is why I find it funny. All right. What are some steps? I guess you can get a little more specific, right? What are some steps you personally, so this is your opinion, think we could take to work on the conservation of large snake species in our industry in an ethical manner?
My initial reaction is a very blanket statement. And so I only preface that because it's like everything's gonna be taken out of context. Not that I'm worried about that, to be clear. But
Yeah.
I do want to just kind of clarify that, like, my initial reaction. This is my initial reaction. It's like, I think my initial reaction is just to be better examples. And that's not to say that we're all bad examples that work with big snakes. It goes back to what I was just talking about, is that there are so many of us that are good examples of big snake keepers, and that's why we all need to be talking about each other. I appreciate that question because it gives me some context to attach to what I was literally just talking about. Like, like, guys, like, don't go out of your way when you're like feeding your snakes on Friday night. Don't go out of your way to post on Facebook your live feeding video. Here's what I would encourage you to do, because this is what I think actually matters and is much more heartfelt. And I think I understand how you feel. I love every time my snakes feed, whether it's live, frozen, whatever. It is the greatest feeling ever. It's the same as when I give them clean water, as stupid as that sounds. I
Yeah,
get
right.
so excited about swapping out my snakes' water and giving them a clean cages. I get excited because I love that I'm taking care of something, and contributing something. And so my contribution to that question would be to just share more about what you're doing in the best way possible. Don't be embarrassed to I don't know. I just think that, like, where we're at with things is not good. Don't be afraid to accept that our current standard for things is wrong. Okay? Because here's the thing, it's coming. It's coming. Whether you fucking like it or not, like, it's coming. This industry is gonna change, okay? And I
Oh
promise
yeah.
you it's gonna change, starting with big snakes, because that's the easiest target for people. That's why I would also, again, recommend any chance that you get to in person talk to people about what you do with your snakes, talk with them about it. But even more so, any chance that you get to show live feedings on Instagram or Facebook or wherever the fuck, don't do it. Please don't, because it's so hard for people like me to explain to people. When people ask me, like, why I love the snakes that
Yeah.
I love and why I love the animals that I love, like, I don't want them to have to reference, like, well, what do you feel like about this person? That's just like the way that their video sounded. They were kind of glorifying the fact that this fucking rat was getting eaten.
Yeah, that shit.
I would encourage all of us to change our, honestly, like I said, just change your presentation, change up your sales tactic. Like, understand that anything and everything you do, you're selling this industry that we all love. I That's my number one piece of advice to this industry as a whole, is to just act as if is what I was told as a kid a long time ago. Act as if everybody is seeing everything that you do. Act as if everybody is judging everything that you do. Act as if everything that you're doing behind closed doors is perfectly visible to the rest of the world. And don't go away from that, because if you can't explain it to people based on the idea that they saw it, then it's wrong, and it's wrong. So hold yourself to a higher standard and act as if. Act as if you want this thing that we all enjoy and love to live forever. And it will, as long as we all act as if. It's really that simple.
God damn, that was
And just being
fucking
good examples.
beautiful. That was fucking beautiful. Like I'm not saying, damn, I'm a hard guy to inspire because I've done so much and been through so much, and I usually
Sure.
inspire others.
Sure. I
Fuck,
agree.
that was inspiring, Zach. Jesus,
Thank you.
goddamn Christ, that was fuck,
No,
man.
but that's why I like these conversations, Brandon. Because, again, like, that doesn't come from me. That comes from this collaboration of conversation.
Yeah,
And
100%.
this shit's important. That's the other side that, again, is not talked about. Conversation, man, creates these amazing ideas. It creates these opportunities for people to think of things we never thought about before.
And then we act on the ideas and thoughts,
Exactly.
and things get better.
Yes.
This is a question for you from the chat. Do you like berms, and would you get one?
I personally, I have not interacted largely with berms. Here's the thing. I like berms.
I was
Yes.
going to say you would like berms. Yeah.
Yeah. On the surface, yes, I like berms. I love berms. In fact, that's the thing. Like, I love berms. Having never interacted with berms, I love berms. I think they're big puppy dog animals that I absolutely would love to interact with. Will I ever own a berm? No. Do I have any interest in owning a berm? No, I don't. Now, and that's where things get complicated, right? It's like, dwarf berms exist, and there is that whole thing. This hobby's complicated, man. It just is. It just is. It's complicated. It's very complicated because I love berms. I absolutely love berms. Do I think that everybody and their brother should be allowed to breed berms?
Yeah, probably not.
I struggle to answer that question because again, I'm not somebody that feels like I'm in the position to tell people what to do, and I by no means am I saying that. But I'm just saying like I don't want to own berms. I have no interest in owning berms. I think that berms should exist. I think that berms should be bred maybe on a very small scale. And I think that's basically it. Like I personally don't think that there's any reason that I can see for myself to put a lot of time into making more berms. I would love to own a berm as a pet. I think
Yes,
I think that's
would
the
be
best example I would say is that
yeah.
yes, I love berms. Like and I think I can say that about any animal anybody would ask me about on here. Anything we've talked about, dude, is like an animal I want as a pet. As a pet, you know,
Yeah.
and have a giant enclosure and the whole thing. Like I want, but in terms of like from breeding, like from a business standpoint, which is the stuff I love to talk about,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I think there's some doors closing, and I really hope that people embrace those doors closing and close those doors for themselves because I don't think a lot of things make sense anymore, unfortunately, and that's not because of legislature. I just think that's just because of the market. The same way that I think I said earlier on, I don't want to breed bearded dragons because anybody that wants
Yeah.
to jump into bearded dragons tomorrow can make 1,000 of them next year, and it's just silly.
Yeah, it's unneeded, and you know, if we toned it down in a few years, ramp up production, we'd be right back where
Yeah.
we are now.
Well,
And
and Brandon, I wouldn't even say that in terms of, and this is, and all right, I'm gonna make a very bold statement
make it.
that I'm gonna
Fucking,
that I may regret or whatever. I really don't
nah,
care.
fuck it,
Well,
bro.
I was gonna say I won't regret. I may catch some shit for it. There's a person that I respect a lot in this hobby, and they presented this example, and I honestly I agreed. Um, beside the snakes, yeah, I do. I have some dogs. I have a cat. Dude. So for anybody that's wondering, as far as my animal love and my animal passion, my first word was dog. That was after I was tackled by our dog that we adopted from the shelter when I was like before I could even walk. My parents like freaked out, and apparently I like jumped up and like my first word was dog.
That's
So my
awesome.
first word was dog. So I've always been an animal lover, and beyond that, like in second grade, for example, I actually hand drew and wrote a book about the animals that I kept at my house, which included an iguana, a pig, a bird, a newt, a toad, and a couple other different things. So
You've
yeah,
been in North Carolina your whole life, huh?
no, that was in Georgia, but close enough.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So I love animals.
That's
Besides
awesome.
snakes, especially, I love all animals. But yeah, dude, man, I think in terms of berms and retics, I think that's a dangerous, slippery slope that we're all
Slippery slope, yeah.
on. I love them to death, and I think that everybody should be legally allowed to own and have whatever that we want. But I do think that currently we are overproducing a lot of these big snakes. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with you.
I don't think that anybody can message me and say like, oh, I can list off 3,000 homes for these giant fucking snakes that are gonna be able to keep them for fucking 60 years. No, I'm sorry, you can't.
No, you can't.
And nobody wants to talk about that. And again, I understand that that's a nasty statement to make in terms of negatively against the market. But that's why I want the market to act as if. I want the market to act as if these animals don't have a home, because they don't. Act as if we need to get smaller and smaller with these animals because we have to, because it's true. Act as if. So that's just it, man. I want to see some adjustments made, and I understand that it's going to take a long time because everybody's going to always look for a deal.
So, do you follow red bottom pythons?
Red bottom, it sounds super familiar. I can't guarantee that like on camera. I don't know for 100% that
She has retics.
Okay.
So her like company is red bottom pythons, but her catchphrase is "Be the game changer." And at Arlington you had Asylum Exotics.
Yeah.
Okay, his catchphrase was create something insane.
Okay.
Your Nava Reptile's catchphrase should be act as if.
I honestly, man, I believe in that. So prior to this, my kind of catchphrase for everything that I do is lean into it. But I think that those two things go together in the best way possible.
I agree.
Act as if, but also lean into it. Lean into it, but act as if. They interchange because it is important. Like it seems obvious for me to tell people, hey, research what the fuck it is you're doing and the impact that it has on the hobby, and like the details of where these animals are going, and like what the quantities are and what's important and what's popular. Do that shit before you just buy a couple of hets and just decide like, oh yeah, I'm gonna breed these things.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Because I am. I mean, I'm really glad that this came up, and I hope that this doesn't end up with me, getting shit on. But my personal and all, opinion of everything that all of us do is that there's a lot of us that need to be doing less breeding and a lot more refocusing on what exactly we are breeding and why. I think
So,
that I don't think enough people call that out, man. But I do think it's tremendously important.
I 100% agree with you, and I don't think any reptile enthusiast worth their salt will shit on you for that statement, because it's coming from a place where they should be able to clearly see you want what's best for the industry, not the ball pythons, not the retics, not the berms, not the iguanas, not the skinks, not the bearded dragons. The entire reptile industry as a collective I can tell that's like, you want what's best for our industry, and if someone shits on you, hey, man, they better come talk to me. They'll catch these fucking hands. You catch COVID or these hands, bitch. That's about it, motherfucker.
No, I appreciate it, Brandon, for real. And really, I appreciate you giving me the platform, brother, because like I said, everybody knows, anybody that knows me and sees me on my other stuff, I can definitely talk, and obviously I'm sure I've shown that here tonight. I apologize if I've cut you off.
No, it's
just the way that I am.
I love I'm here to interview you. And so this is people getting to see you, getting to know you, the face behind the brand. And for instance, I said a lot of people are ball python people that watch much, the channel, mine and Liz's channel, and we try to bring them stuff outside the norm because I like everything. I don't, I'll always breed the ball pythons, but I want to breed stuff that's on the endangered species list and on the threatened list, for wildlife repopulation. That's where my big passion is. So I like to dip into a little bit of everything.
Here's my thing. That should make you more popular on social media, but it doesn't.
I know.
Right?
Oh, I know, man. Believe me.
Like, I was on the open Zoom call, Chris Eaton's open Zoom call, which is amazing. For anybody that doesn't catch those, like, there's so much random conversation that has so much value, and that's I'm almost tearing up talking about it. Like, there is so much information exchange and energy exchange that happens in this hobby that's off schedule, or you know what I mean, like, just like, you can't just get everything from these things. I hope that people will tune in and try to catch the things that aren't advertised as much, because those are those little times you're going to catch people. Like, the point is that this call that Chris had was unrecorded. It was off schedule. It was random. And some very important people in the hobby popped in. And even they had some things to say that when approached, it was like, they were like, hey, because this isn't being recorded, would you mind elaborating on your thoughts on this? And there were some things that were said that kind of line up with what I'm talking about. Like, They're obvious. They're so obvious. All of us want better. All of us love these animals so much.
Yeah.
And all of us clearly want to keep having these animals. And yet we all just like turn away and get upset at like this, that thing or the other or whatever. But like we all at the end of the day got to stick together and just make a plan. I don't know. Again, I don't mean to ramble and
No, I think you're right, because
down that path, but I just
always
want
told
people to
people we're
understand the
weird.
importance of these things. Yeah.
Yeah, we're the weird ones, and
Yes.
we need to, in society, in normal society,
Right. We
we're
need to
fucking
normalize
weird.
what we're doing.
That's what it is.
Yeah. You
We
should
need
be
to
able to
make
go
it
on
a
YouTube
societal
right
norm.
now and type in ball python, and it pull up like 1,000 of us, as opposed to it pulling up 3 of these fucking assholes that are like feeding snakes to puppies or whatever the fuck they're doing.
I know that shit's. I saw that shit. That's fucked.
Oh, I know, and we're not even going to dive down that path. But my
No.
point is that
we're
is
not.
our weakness. That is our weakness. We don't operate enough, dude. We don't operate enough as professionals. We need to be putting out more content. It's all about percentages. It's all about quantity. Like it's all about quantity. Like every time, guys, if you wake up in the morning and you see something your ball python is doing that's cute or funny or laughable, fucking please, for the love of Christ, pull out your phone and video it and post it fucking somewhere. Because whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, trust me, it will have an effect. It will have an effect on people that you don't even know. You literally have no idea what the next little piece of content is that somebody's going to attach themselves to and love. And find hilarious. What I love, dude, I don't know if you've seen it going around. There's a ton of content going around right now with hognose snakes, where people have put like these cutesy audios over like hognose yawning. Do you guys understand the extent of how major that marketing is for this hobby? As taking these snakes and making them cute to people that don't normally,
it paints them in a positive light.
That's it. And that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And so that's why I say, like, all of these people that are focusing on like, oh, well, I'm going to feed my snakes this week, I'm going to video that. Listen, if you would take 5 minutes extra of your week, and instead of thinking like, oh, this is easy content, like easy content is me feeding my snakes because I do it every week, get some extra content that's like your snake doing something weird, that's funny. Again, something as simple as like open a tub, and we all have these snakes that want to crawl in the tub and like cruise around the room or whatever. Like do a quick 15-20 second video that you post to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever the fuck you want to post it. I don't care. Facebook, and I'll share it. If you guys tag me, I don't care. Like just do something that's cute, that's interesting with that snake or that lizard or whatever it happens to be. Like we can all have a huge impact on the way that this hobby is looked at, because you guys don't know when a lobbyist or a politician themselves are going to see this goofy video of your ball python, like you booping the snoot or whatever the fuck it is, and that might affect their actual opinion. That's where I come from. That's where I think a lot of people misunderstand me as being so passionate about what I do and what I push so far for this hobby. But man, that's the shit. Yeah, thank you. I did. I got 80,000 views for breaking down a block of fucking repti chip on TikTok.
That's fucking badass, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
And I didn't capitalize on it after the fact. Because my thought on that is, I'm like, fuck, my next video should have been way better, of like introducing people to ball pythons. But I hope that somebody listening to this will pick up that mantle and understand how easy it is to have an effect.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. As soon as I'm like out, I'm getting like, I'm going and buying like a nice camera, and I'm going to start like my own.
You don't even have to do that, dude.
YouTube.
Brandon, dude.
Yeah, but I want to. That's the thing.
I know you do, but yeah, anyways, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I'm not good at.
Yeah, you're going to be a tremendous force, and that's what I say, man. Like, I hope that everybody doesn't take like my attitude tonight as negative. I'm so positive. There are so many amazing people coming up in this hobby that are going to do tremendous fucking things, including all the people that are listening to this right now that are hopefully taking just even an inkling of my advice. Like, we are all, man, it's a fucking numbers game, dude. It's a
It
it's a
really is.
numbers game. Like if you don't keep a ball python as a pet in 5 years, like you're gonna be fucking weird. Like we got
Yeah.
this, but
Before you even
we
finished that
gotta
sentence,
stay
I was
committed.
like, "That's weird." Like,
Yeah, it's facts,
yeah,
dude. It's fucking facts.
it's America's favorite reptile is a ball python. But all right, we got nothing left. We
Nothing.
got we got the we got
Dude,
the
yeah,
we got the revolution round. So
yeah.
this is like
Let's fucking kill it.
I'm gonna hit you with questions, and you're not gonna think. It's gonna be off the top of your head, like bam, answer. All
Got it.
right.
Let's go. All right, give me a second. I'm gonna block out all of my other distractions. Hang on. Let me finish this.
Slam it, slam it. Fucking Cinco de Mayo, ese.
All right, let's go.
All right, you ready? What's your 1 rep max for bench press?
Oh Jesus fucking Christ! I honestly, dude, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you right now. I'm being serious.
How much do you weigh?
I currently weigh 163.
Okay, I can warm up with your body weight, so that
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah. I would say I mean obviously I think if I like walk into a gym I can still bench press my weight. Like 135 wouldn't be a problem, bar with 2 plates. It's been a long
Yeah.
time since I've been in the gym though. But yeah, I would feel comfortable second at least bench my body weight.
So I was. Oh man, hold on. I'm such a bastard.
It's all good, dude.
Okay, so I pulled this up. I'm gonna screen share it real quick, and I was looking at it, and I was like,
If you pull up an old picture of me fucking flexing, I'm gonna be
no,
so
no,
pissed.
no.
Oh, okay, we're good.
So this is a picture of you and me. I was like, damn, my shoulders look yoke as fuck in this picture, bro. I looked at it, I was like, fuck yeah, man, I still got it. So I just had to share that. All right. So when you say the candy, or you can think of it as like a type of albino, is it going to be caramel albino or caramel albino?
I mean, neither. Obviously, I'm all Ultramel all day. I think caramel. I think anybody working with caramel needs to stop working with caramel.
Well,
I
caramel's
think
cake,
candy.
right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, well, and here's the thing. Like I said, it would take way too much marketing to bring value back to that project to make it worthwhile.
I 100% agree, but the question is, how do you say caramel? Do you say like caramel or caramel?
I apologize. So I say,
It's cool. It's cool.
fuck. Now see you caught me off guard. I should have just answered right away. I think I say more like caramel. Yeah, like caramel. I think.
Oh, that's like right in between.
Yeah.
All right. What's your spirit animal?
Spirit animal. Oh Jesus. I'm gonna go retic because that's just what pops into my fucking head, and it's totally not actually true at all. But I'm gonna go with it.
Brian Cusco is my spirit animal.
Dude, Cusco he's such good people. He like literally, I'm not
He
kidding.
is.
Yeah, like
the
I was working
best.
the Freedom Breeder booth with him, that weekend, and he gave me so many shout outs for that, by the way, and it was amazing. And that was
Cusco's
totally
the
not my
man.
point, but I just settled into doing that with him, and I remember at one point he literally like just people were talking to him, and he just like walked up and just gave me a hug, and it was just one of those just like. I was like, yeah, like this is one of my good friends, because it was just he stopped what he was doing to literally just like show his appreciation for me helping him out, and that's just the way that he's wired. And a lot of people, I think, need to know more people that are like that, because there are such good people out there in the world. So, anyways, I apologize for.
No, it's good. Cusco's a good standard to live by.
Yeah.
Trust me.
No, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Last question. If you could have one ability that an animal has, like how an octopus can grow its limbs back or whatever, if you could have like one superpower that an animal has, what would it be?
That's pretty tough. Man,
That's a hard one, huh?
that is that breaks my brain a little bit.
Yeah, it was fucking hard.
Dude. Yeah, did you design this to where it makes it super
Yeah!
awkward for your
Yeah,
thing?
dude!
I'm like, there's gonna be a long pause on this video. because in all seriousness, like more where my mind goes immediately is to like I'm like, what is an animal that like understands thoughts? You know what I mean? You know, like that. Like that's the biggest hurdle that I guess I feel for myself is like uh, comprehension of other people. And so I'm like, what understands the comprehension of people,
Maybe an
right?
elephant.
Yeah. And that's, dude, that's exactly where I was going. I was like, either an elephant or a tortoise. Like, I think I'm gonna have to go. I think I'm gonna have to go like Galapagos tortoise.
The brain of a Galapagos.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. I think I'm gonna have to go that way, man. I'm gonna have to go long game because that's where my heart lies. Really in everything. Like it just there's no level that any of us could even begin to scratch that even meets theirs. You know what I mean? And like
Oh God, yeah.
because they live so long, there's literally no argument that anybody could make to say that we're smarter than they are because we don't have anything to go on. We have
Yeah.
nothing. We have nothing to operate on that these things are smarter than us. And so it's like there's this there's this weird plane that my brain operates on sometimes where I think like we might actually be the ones that are just like laughable to a lot of species, you know, that are literally like the ones being kept and we don't even know it. Like we're being kept alive by these way smarter beings than we are
I
because we're
think
just idiots.
I think we just get laughed at by cats. Cats are just like, you
They're a
feed
great
me, you're
example
nice to
for
me,
sure.
and you clean my shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
They're dude, they're a great example for 100% sure. 100% sure. And dogs are kind of the same way, you know, and just um yeah.
yeah,
So that I think that's my answer as best as I can give it. I
the
hope it
brain of a
wasn't too obscure.
Galapagos. I love it, man. I love it. My biggest takeaway from this was act as if. That was the greatest
I appreciate
inspirational
that, man,
thing.
because honestly, I'm gonna take it away even further, you know, than I did before, because it was just a thing that just happened in my head, and it wasn't like it came from nowhere. You know, obviously, I explained it pretty thoroughly,
Yeah.
um, but it's a big one. You know, my other one, I don't know if you ever heard me say it, was lean into it.
Oh
Um,
yeah, you say that all the time.
I do, I say
Like
it all the time, but
always.
do you know where it came from?
Well, we say it in the army. So
Okay, yeah, so so here's the thing. So it indirectly came from the army.
yeah.
So my buddy Miko, he's retired Army, and and I started bartending, you know, 3 years ago. The bar that I bartended at was where I started bar backing. I'd never bartended in my life,
Okay.
but I knew a guy that was a GM, and he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I need a body, like, come on." I learned and was basically promoted to assistant manager within about 6 months. You know, it's like left on my own,
Good
bartending
shit.
a high volume bar very rapidly after the fact. And I worked with this guy Miko, who was, you know, retired Army, and he was much older than me, but it was just he didn't want to work. And Miko, if you're watching this now, like, you know that I'm not wrong. You know, he just it's just a fact. Like he was just in a different spot than me in my life, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was ready to bust my ass and like do this, that, and the other thing to serve people and make some money. So, anyways, I ended up his boss long term, and Miko is watching me one day just get demolished behind the bar, just destroyed. You know, where I'm stressed the fuck out. I'm dealing with these customers that are assholes, and I'm like behind because there's so many people, and I'm solo. And it was the first time, like I said, that ever happened to me, which is when you grow the most because you just realize like, fuck, there's nobody else. I'm gonna either fail at this or I'm gonna get faster.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
he comes up to me and he just like grabs me behind the shoulders. He's like, just lean into it, man. Just lean into it. Zach, just lean into it. And there was something about that where he was making fun of me. He was absolutely making fun of me because what it was there was somebody yelling at me in that moment where they were bitching, moaning, complaining. And he could see that I was getting ready to flip the fuck out and throw them out of the fucking bar and like it was going to get ugly in front of these, again, this huge crowd of people. And he goes,
Yeah.
dude, just lean into it and just laugh. And I did. And I laughed my fucking ass off and I leaned into it. And dude, I never fucking hardly ever got upset at anybody after that. And I realized the depth of that statement. Little things. So yeah, act as if and lean into it. Like that's my shit.
Yeah, lean into it is an army thing.
Yeah.
That's it comes from when you're stacked. So when you're gonna kick in a door, okay, you usually have people, they call it the stack. So let's
Yeah,
say you have like
yeah.
four
Four bodies
people
ready to blast
on
through.
one side of the door, and then
Yep.
one guy on the other
One
side.
on the other.
This dude's gonna open the door. These dudes are gonna fly into the door, right?
Yeah.
But before you go into the door, to let everyone know you're good, you're on the door, like you're against the wall with your rifle, and you lean back, and the person behind you, if
Leans
they're
in.
good, they'll lean back on the person behind them all the way to the last guy. Then when the last guy is good, he leans forward, and everyone leans
and then you guys
into it.
breach.
Yeah, everyone leans into it, and the front guy will just give the nod, and the door dude flings it open.
Bam.
And with leaning into it, you just get in there, man.
Yeah. And it's all on, it's all forward, it's all just automatic after that.
Yeah, you ain't got nothing. There ain't no going back.
Yeah.
You lean into that shit.
And that's it, man. I've never heard any bad explanation, and I've never stopped thinking about that. Like I spoke with him recently, and I love that guy to death. If he does see this later on, like Miko is he's had a complicated fucking life. He and I both have, but he brought a lot to my life as a person and taught me a lot.
That's
and
awesome.
I appreciate him for it. And yeah, lean into it was like one of the greatest things he ever told me, one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. And it has so many applications in my life, day to day, and not just day to day, but just like in general, dude. Like in general, it's one of those, and that's why you've heard me say it so much. Even you, like I know I say it a lot, and it means the same to me every time when I say lean into it. It could be, like you said, I'm having a shit fucking day, and I really don't want to fucking do this shit anymore. I want to fucking just quit my job and fucking go home and not deal with this shit anymore. Just lean into it, man. Just lean into it. Lean hard as fuck into this shit. Listen, you can complain the whole time, but you gotta fucking lean into it and get it done. And then you can move on to the next fucking thing. You can move on to the next fucking chapter. And that's everything, man. It's absolutely everything.
It is.
Just because the point that I took away, and this is why I laughed when he laughed at me, was I was dealing with a customer that was being an asshole. And I had no other option. The options are one or two things. Listen, I can throw this fucking person out of the fucking bar, and I can be that guy, and like I can get aggressive, and like it's gonna create a whole thing, and it's gonna create an energy in the room of like, oh, this person just got thrown out, and all my other future customers got to watch me show this person out. Or I can lean into it, and I can laugh. I can laugh right along with this person's attitude and be like, yeah, you're right, blah, 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 and just fucking lean into it and let them think they're the smartest person on the planet and let them think that they're funny as hell, and I can just fucking collect my money afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's everything. I lean into fucking everything ever since that, man. Everything. I don't care what it is. You can always lean into it.
We could always say, lean into it and embrace the suck.
Yeah. Yeah,
embrace the suck was the other one.
Yeah. I've heard that one too from military people. One that I heard recently was it, and it did. I kind of said it a second ago, but it said basically like, keep pushing through. You can cuss the whole time, but you got to keep pushing through. Like you can cuss the whole time. You can be keep as angry and as upset. Nobody's telling you not to be upset about it because we understand.
Yeah.
But you still got to fucking get it done. And that's definitely something to be said, and for life in general. And especially in this hobby, because it's like, you know what, listen, if you want to be successful in this hobby with the stuff that we do, and especially with ball pythons, by God, it's a lot of just repetition over and over and over.
Oh yeah. Monotony.
Fucking lean into it, man. Lean
lean
into doing the same shit every day.
Lean into it, man.
Lean into making sure that people know who the fuck you are. Lean into making sure that people are talking about your project and the whole thing. But no, it's
act as if they're always watching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn, that was good. Well, we're about 30 minutes over the time limit, but I really enjoyed it. I would like to definitely have you on again with Liz because she works with larger snakes as well, not just the balls.
I would love to talk to her, man. Y'all let me know anytime.
And I absolutely will, man. And thank you for being real. I asked you some fucking really unique questions, and you answered them like from the heart, and I couldn't ask for more than that. So before we dip out, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so again, my name is Zak Nava of Nava Reptiles. I am Nava Reptiles basically everywhere. On Instagram, it's Nava Reptiles. Facebook, in all seriousness, I have started to kind of be a little more choosy about that, just because it's like it's like the very small place that I actually post my own personal stuff in terms of like family and friends. So if I don't accept your friend request on there, don't be upset with me. Instagram is really where it's at. So Instagram is the main one. Anybody that pretty much follows me or talks to me on there, like you'll definitely hear from me. If you send me a message, you'll hear from me. So that's the main one. But I'm also on TikTok as Nava Reptiles. I think I'm on Snapchat as Nava Reptiles. Like I'm kind of all over the place. So just reach out. Again, if there's something that you want to really need to know from me or whatever, Instagram is the easiest platform. You can definitely catch me there. So I appreciate all of you guys in all seriousness, guys and gals both, and I'm very excited for where all of us take this hobby. And I hope that anything and everything that I said tonight may have, at least if nothing else, made you think, whether you agree with it or not. And if you disagree, then reach out to me and let me know why I'm wrong, because I'm also welcome to that. So we can always all learn. So thank you guys.
Huh. Fuck yeah, I love both of you. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Kenny. You're the best, man. Fuck yeah. Fucking lean into it. All right, Zach.
Exactly. Good folks, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate
Hell
it.
yeah. You have a good Cinco de Mayo, brother. And if I'll talk to you, I'll hit you up tomorrow. I'm about to go to bed. I'll hit you up tomorrow about the whole Garrett thing.
Yeah, for sure, brother.
All right.
We'll
Zak Nava, everybody. Later, bro.
Later, brother.
All right, everyone. That was fucking bad fucking ass. Zach killed it. I always like to get like real in depth. I like to ask real in depth questions, and he fucking crushed it, dude. Straight fucking crushed it. He spoke from the heart. I've known him for probably about, I think, for real, about a year and a half. Genuine ass motherfucking guy. Has been since I met him. Super awesome. If you couldn't see that passion, you're blind as fuck. Straight up. Please, please, please go check him out. If you guys have any questions pertaining to retics, hit him up. I promise you, Zach will give you the time of day. He's a solid dude. Next week we will have Liz back, I hope. And yep, I see you missed Liz, Kenny. Thank you. It was an awesome live. It really was an awesome live. So we'll see you guys next week. I don't know who the guest is because Liz always has the list. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Later.